the race from pole position up until that point. But that puncture, that run into the gravel trap, saw them eventually having to come home in just 13th place. It was a great way to start the season, and we have another endurance race today. It is the second of 6 endurance races this season. We did it almost as a trial last year, and it was so successful. The drivers, the teams, the spectators absolutely loved the endurance format. So 3 of the 6 rounds this year are endurance rounds. That means that over those weekends, there will be 2 80-minute races. The other 3 rounds will have 2 sprint races within them. So 6 sprint races, 6 endurance races. It means that the ADAC GT Masters continues to grow, continues to develop, continues to return to its roots, very much created originally as a platform for amateur drivers to battle alongside the emerging talents, and that is very much what we're returning back to now. And what great racing we are seeing. We had a great qualifying this morning, and it was that car there, Jonathan Cecotto, who didn't even get to drive yesterday because the car retired at the beginning of the race with a damage. It was he who led the way for much of the qualifying position in the Ford Mustang, run by Haupt Racing Team. And it was Haupt Racing's Ford Mustangs that went on to steal the headlines. Jonathan Cecotto, I should say, to not get him mixed up with his very famous father or indeed older brother, ended up qualifying in 6th place. The other 2 Haupt Racing Mustangs locking out the front row. It was a sensational lap from Nicholas Callas, the driver who, along with Max Rice, finished in 3rd yesterday on his debut weekend in the ADAC GT Masters. Nicholas Callas, who was running in a Porsche Sports Cup Germany Sprint Challenge GT4 last year. In fact, was the champion of that series, jumping up to the big league and showing what he's made of. And he stole that pole position. The other of the Haupt Racing Mustangs, there's a theme here. This time was Salmon Vega at the wheel, earning 2nd place on the grid. Salmon Vega, who was visually frustrated at not being able to get that pole position. It's going to be an exciting race, and it is made even more exciting because we've been waiting for it to arrive all day, and now it has arrived. What is that we've been waiting for? The rain has started to come down. It's not enough to necessitate wet tyres at the moment, but it's going to make it very lively. Many of these drivers making their debut in the ADAC GT Masters. Alongside me for this, the 2nd race of the season, the voice of DTM, Chris Hartley. We just had an epic DTM race. We said that yesterday's GT Masters race was something to behold. Is this going to live up to the standard that we've come to expect at the Lausitzring?
Hope so, yeah. Afternoon, everybody. I was really impressed with the race yesterday in ADAC GT Masters. Loved the 2 pit stop, 80-minute format that we had. The rain fell a little bit. It started to ease. It's coming back again now. They're all on slick Pirelli tyres. And we got Nicholas Callas, who got his maiden podium on his debut yesterday, former GT4 Porsche Sprint Challenge champion, on pole position, as you say, nearly 3/10 clear as well. But behind him, Vibalaz Vega, who probably could have won yesterday, but for all the penalties they picked up, 4 of them in total, 4 runs through the penalty box. They're 2nd, but they're only 86 thousandths ahead of Viskirchen and Fitcher in the Mercedes, which was the car that got hit by Finn Vibalaz at the start of the race, which caused the first of the penalties. And then Simon Conoprim and Finn Zulaf are pretty close on pace as well. They're 4th on the grid.
Nicholas Callas on that pole position. Salmon Vega, it's an all Ford Mustang Haupt Racing front row. Yanis Fitcher for SR Motorsport by Schnitzelam has Simon Conoprim for company. They have unsettled business from yesterday. Yesterday's winner, Simon Birch and Jonathan Cecotto. Jonathan finally getting behind the wheel in racing trim. Sandro Holzem and Tim Zimmerman, and all BMW. Row 4 of the grid. On row 5, Eduardo Kositeng and Denis Bulatov in one of 2 Audis that are on the grid. And row 6, the other of the Audis, Carrie Schreiner, we welcome her back to GT Masters, has Jonas Karklees for company in the Pro-Am category. Dante Rapange, another for the Liquimoly team, Exler by GRT Cars on row 7. And he has Alex Schwarzer for company. Alexander Schwarzer, the only bronze-rated driver on the grid. Air temperature, 15.5 degrees centigrade and dropping. Water falling ever so slightly, but this could really throw the proverbial Moggy amongst the pigeons as this race unfolds. We've got 2 pit stops to come, different pit stop lengths for some of the drivers. Plenty to talk about, but at the moment, the cars are side by side coming out of the final turn on this 3.478-kilometer circuit, a track that has 12 turns, 7 to the left and 5 to the right. They're running side by side. The rain is on the camera lens. Who knows what is going to happen in the next 80 minutes plus 1 lap? We're about to find out. Our eyes are looking to the red light, and now they go green. We are go for race 2 of the season. And into turn 1 they come. A good start for Nicholas Callas, but he's got to get it slowed down. A slight downhill section, a pinch point up into second place. Yanis Fischer, the more experienced driver, but this car's got together. The 2 HRT cars getting together, going wide. Yanis Fischer into the lead, and it's Simon Birch, yesterday's winner, up into second, but the Lamborghini, the 33 car, Simon Conoprim, onto the grass, rejoins right in the path of the leader. They've all scrambled through somehow. I think everybody's made it, but a very messy start. Yanis Fischer coming out on top. The 2 Mustangs that belong to Hout Racing getting together. Other cars involved as well. A very, very messy opening lap. No doubt that the rain has contributed to that. So the 33 Simon Conoprim has been able to rejoin. That's Sandro Holzem in the BMW. So they're all going to just sort themselves out. But Yanis Fischer, damage on Simon Birch's Porsche in second place. Also running off the road, Jonas Karklees. He is in the Pro-Am category. So a very lively first race. I think the slippery conditions catching drivers out. But Simon Birch with damage, and the car goes slowly of Simon Conoprim. It looks like he's retiring. Double disaster after such a strong showing yesterday. The 33 car into retirement to complete the first lap. The incident between Simon Conoprim and Simon Birch, well, that's what happened to the front corner of the Simon Birch car then, the 2 of them getting together. But he is now challenging for the lead into turn 1, has a little look to the outside of Yanis Fischer. Not really a challenge, just putting the pressure on, but further back as Dante Rapange, who's come from towards the back of the pack, challenging as well. Also, Jonathan Cicotto just staying out of trouble. He's up there as well as Sandro Holzem. So much drama on the opening lap of the race, and I think the slippery conditions just catching drivers out.
Yeah, I think that rain got worse on the formation lap, didn't it? They arrived at turn 1 with no clue about how much, or rather how little grip they would have, and there wasn't a lot at all. Of course, the first one to get there is the pole sitter, and Callas just coming out of the turn, lost it, and then it wasn't the only one. They're all skittering into each other, so he's wound up in the Mustang down in 7th, and that's Simon Birch going through the gravel trap, having to top 2, both through the gravel trap. Fischer is going through the gravel trap as well. This is at turn 7, back on the infield. So Birch, who won yesterday's race with Theo Pickler, will rejoin, but by the time he scrambles it back on the track, he's going to be in the middle of the pack. So with a damaged front right corner, red flag. Race is going to be stopped. It's too dangerous, says the race director, because they're all on slick tyres. They've all got 550 plus brake horsepower, and they've got 0 grip at the moment.
Wow, yeah, I think that's a sensible decision. We could see that all sorts of drama from the moment they got into that first corner, just on those slick tyres. Tyres that generate the heat that melts the surface onto the track, that creates the grip, and of course in the rain you don't get that. That was Simon Birch on his own, just losing the back end. He'd stepped out, he was in the lead at that point. It got past Yanis Fischer, but Fischer then following him into the gravel trap. This is the view on board, so Birch had just got past, a moment of celebration, and then hurls a load of gravel into the face of Yanis Fischer. Have some of that, he says. Also going out, that's Jonas Karklees. Nice bit of drifting there. I think it'll probably be easier if we list all the cars that didn't slide off onto the gravel. Denis Bulatov, windscreen wiper going. Did he have a moment? I'm expecting he possibly did. This was the view from his perspective. Yeah, no, he did keep it on the grey stuff. Good job there. Nicholas Callas, you could see the car snaking as he got onto the power, patrolling all the might of that Ford Mustang power in these conditions. A bucking Bronco, I think is probably what it's like. So red flag is out. At the moment, Yanis Fischer has been listed as the leader on the timing screen. On our graphic, Salmano Vega. There is the car I don't think that Simon Conoprim is able to rejoin, so it looks like the Power Motorsport Lamborghini may well be towed back to the garage, and that is a disaster. Coming into this weekend, Simon Conoprim, Finn Zulauf were two who I thought were potentially the biggest contenders for the championship, and a shake of the head from Simon Conoprim. The frustration of yesterday has transferred over to today.
Yeah, so yesterday they led the race. We've got 7 minutes to go. A puncture for Finn Zulauf and the car out of contention. I mean, he got back to the pits eventually, changed tyres, but they ended up at the back of the field and then off at the start of the race. Got back on, actually got back into 5th place, I think, after the off initially through the first sequence of corners, but then some damage to the car, retirement, and they get no points. That was a big old moment. The two teammates, the HRT Mustangs, coming together, not deliberately, but just ran out of grip there, and then he went onto the grass, onto the dirt, the pole sitter, and as Nicholas Callas came back on the track, Simon Avega's Mustang was there, and they wiped each other to the side, and it was Janis Fitcher that came through, and then that was the Power Motorsport Lamborghini of Simon Conoprim going way off and onto the grass, but he kept going, and eventually rejoined and didn't actually lose too many places when he got back on into the middle of the pack. But then it all went wrong with some smoke coming out of the car later on. That was a big old thud. There's a slightly misshapen Porsche going around now, or rather not going around because of the red flags. And yeah, look at the leader there. You can just see that was it. Going into a Vega, parting of the waves. Janis Fitcher says, thanks very much. Straight into the lead he goes. But he had his own moment, didn't he? Which we didn't quite see, but he went wide coming off the tri-oval into turn 6 rather. And then at turn 7, Birch, having got the lead, went off, and as we saw, Fitcher went with him.
This is like Dodgems, isn't it? I mean, Callas, I think, originally made light contact with Simon Avega. He'd got onto the power in turn 1 on the green kind of runoff area, and the car had just snapped around. But then it was Simon Birch who really got the job done with that big thump up the rear of Simon Avega. I think in these conditions, just no grip. I think pretty well every car hit another car at some point or the other. The incident between Simon Conoprim and car 14, Simon Birch, has been reported to the stewards. That will be of zero consolation to Simon Conoprim or indeed to Finn Zulauf, who will be looking on from the pits, very frustrated. Right, well, that's what we'll be doing. Well, he's smelling it to make sure whether it's oil or water that's on the track, I think. And it may well be that we've got something that is not rainwater that is on the track. That may well be one of the reasons why we've got the red flag as well. At the moment, well, I'm looking over to the right of our commentary position, and the sun's out. Yeah. So I don't think it's wet weather tires. Looking down on the pit straight, I mean, it's hard to see whether it's especially wet or not. The remnants of the cars are lined up there. Every single one of them, I think, has got a bit of damage somewhere along the way. That's Janis Fitcher, I believe, if my identification's right, looking on. The order on your graphic is not necessarily the order that we're going to be restarting in. That's subject to confirmation. Certainly, Simon Avega is stopped at the front of the queue on the track. But we will wait for news to find out what order they're going to be in, because it depends on what point of the lap the race directors take the result, depending on when the red actually came out. But the HRT team looking on. I think there is something on the track more than just rainwater myself. I think there's oil or fluid of some sort.
Yeah, oil and water and a lot of debris and an even greater amount of gravel and mud and grass that's been dragged back on. It's like an ice rink out there. Like the problem marshal's trying to just stay on their feet and stay upright. So imagine what the cars are trying to deal with here as well.
That's Schubert.
Yeah, to the right of the picture there. Second on the right. Now he is furthest right. Team boss at Schubert Motorsport. They had completed a lap, hadn't they? So go back as your last. It is still raining.
Yes.
The last. It's hard to tell out of the window. I don't think it's raining everywhere as well. I think part of the circuit is raining and part it's not. But yeah, they completed a lap. You go back for the last complete lap potentially. So I don't think it'll be a full restart. I think they will restart in the positions they're in. And that will be good news for Jonathan Cicotto, because he made his way through all of that carnage, did it from 6th on the grid, and having not, as you said, had a chance to drive the car yesterday. He's the highest placed Mustang, the number 2 car, up to 3rd place. Dad, famous Johnny Cicotto, famous 2-wheel and 4-wheel racer, a 350cc motorcycle world champion. Then he became a Formula 1 driver, actually teammates to a young guy at Senna at the Ted Tolman's team. And then a huge crash at Brands Hatch ended his Formula 1 career, but he went on to have a great touring car career. Was a Nürburgring 24-hour winner and was runner-up in the DTM, Johnny Cicotto, and that's his son Jonathan Cicotto that's in the number 2 Ford. Has done a good job to get up to 3rd. Drivers are all out of the cars, which suggests it's going to be a little bit of a while before we get going again. That's quite an expensive amount of damage out there, isn't there?
Yeah, we talk about Jonathan Cicotto. Every Mustang is damaged, I think. His dad, Johnny Cicotto, Jonathan Cicotto, his brother, Johnny. I think the cat's called Johnny as well. There's a theme here. Great to have the legendary name on the grid. As we said, he didn't get to race yesterday, which is a real shame. Dennis Fetzer getting into traumas at the start of the race. Right, let's see where some of this damage came from. And that was from Salmon Vega. So that's a bit of HRT love going on there, I believe. That was what happened to the left rear quarter of that particular Mustang. But I think a lot can be forgiven in these conditions. Right, Tim Zimmerman, we haven't seen this yet. You can see how hard he's having to work. A driver that we've associated with Porsches and Lamborghinis in the past. He's in a BMW nowadays for FK Performance. Having to draw on all of his skills. So he's another one who went off into the gravel, as did most of them. And he was able to rejoin. I'm just looking in all of this. The only person I think we've lost is Simon Connor Prim. The view on board from him. So what actually caused his retirement? I'm wondering whether he broke steering or suspension or something in all of this that happened. There's Jonathan Cicotto in the black and gold Mustang. And this is where Simon Connor Prim disappeared off onto the grass somewhere into downtown Dresden and then rejoined. And here he came out. But I think the car was possibly ailing at this point. Rejoined in 3rd place, and I don't know, does it look like it? I think it's down on a corner there. Oh, then there was contact from Holzem.
Then the smoke appears.
That is when the damage happened then. So Holzem may have had Callas helping him around as well. Also there was Dante Rapange making his debut this weekend in GT Masters. Welcome to GT Masters, Dante. And there, the very sad sight of the Power Motorsport Lamborghini. And that is a shame because a rapid car with those 2 drivers at the wheel, real championship challengers, and I was really looking forward to seeing them mixing it with the others.
They'll be thinking, how have we only got a few points out of this weekend?
Yeah.
We could have had a load of points. We could have had a win. We could have had 2 podiums at least this weekend. They've had real pace, and it's just been one of those weekends that has worked completely against them. We're starting with that puncture yesterday. With 7 minutes to go. Looks like they're reforming the grid, though, so we're not too far away from getting things restarted. So they're going to put them back into
that's not starting positions because they were on row 3. That car was originally.
So back in order, aren't they? Back in the order of the end of the 1st lap, by the looks of things. I think.
Yeah, and the good bit is, arms in the air. The good bit is they are allowed to do a certain amount of repairs, aren't they? I can see them working on the Mustang as Salmon Vega in the background. The new front end on that, I think, is what's required. The bumper of Simon Birch's car, Razun Mordan Racing, can hang the remnants of that on the wall in the office, I should think. In all of it, Alexander Schwarzer did a very good job. He'd qualified last on the grid, made it up into 10th place. So he's clearly one of an extreme minority who stayed out of trouble. So he's now the leading Pro-Am racer. While we have a gap to explain to you, we have several championships in the ADAC GT Masters as the sun comes out here at the Lausitzring. I was looking out the window. It looks glorious now. We have the ADAC GT Masters overall champion. We have the team champion. We have the Silver Cup champion, so all drivers are rated by the FIA. We have silver and bronze rated drivers. The bronze drivers more of the AM category. Silver rated drivers tend to be more of the up-and-coming superstars, for want of a better word. The younger Silver Cup champion drivers, they're fighting for the Silver Cup championship. And then we have a Pro-Am championship as we look at a replay of Jonas Karklees, who is in that Pro-Am championship. And that is for the lesser experienced drivers, bronze and silver primarily, but also any drivers can apply if they have very little experience. Jonas Karklees in the number 8 car, along with Emil Jerdrum, they're both silver rated, but they've applied to join the Pro-Am Championship. Look at that for a quick change. Those of you who have had your car down the garage for the last month waiting for the bumper to be repaired, you need HRT on the job. That is a quick changeover, isn't it? So it'll be the wrong colour, but who cares? So we have the Pro-Am Championship as well. We also have the Road to DTM Championship, and that is drivers who are competing for points. There's the different point structure, and the drivers in that will get potential funding to hopefully move into the DTM next year. Certainly that is the aim of the Road to DTM Championship. So lots of championships to fight for. Of course, our main attention is on the overall championship and on the Pro-Am Championship. Alexander Schwarzer and Alex Fack are the defending champions, and they currently lead the way in the Pro-Ams. And you'll see on the graphic when it comes back on the screen that the number 4 and number 8 cars in the Pro-Am race have different colour numbers to denote them. As we look again at the two Mustangs creating a lot of extra hard work for HRT, although the slippery conditions catching them out, so it can be forgiven. The other thing to explain to you, which we hadn't done, we briefly said there are 2 pit stops in this race. So there will be 2 pit windows that open, and to be confirmed when they'll open, but it should be the 15th minute of the race. The first pit window will open, and it will remain open for 10 minutes. And in that 10-minute window, every car will need to visit the pits for a stop and a driver change. There will be a second pit window that will open 55 minutes into the race. That'll be for 10 minutes. And again, every car must come into the pits and the drivers change it back again. During one of those stops, each car must also perform a tyre change. All 4 wheels need to be changed. Refueling is also allowed in these pit stops as well. It's up to the teams whether they change the wheels on their first stop or their second stop. We'll call the wheel change stop the long stop and the non-wheel change stop the short stop. So depending on what they're doing, as we look at that again, if the team elects to bring them in for their long stop first, then their minimum pit stop time from pit entry to pit exit will be 100 seconds for all of the silver drivers. And for their short stop, the one where they don't change the tyres, their minimum pit stop time from pit entry to pit exit will be 80 seconds. We don't know which one they will do, whether they'll do the first stop as the long stop or the second stop as the long stop, just to keep us on our toes. The only difference is the 2 Pro-Am drivers, their long stop has a minimum pit stop time of 90 seconds, their short pit stop of 70 seconds. It means that the Pro-Am drivers, by the end of the race, in theory, would have spent 20 seconds less in the pits than the other cars around them. So the Pro-Am drivers having what could be a 20-second advantage. So makes the race very interesting, but we don't know, the teams don't let you know in advance whether they're doing their long stop first or their short stop first. And it might be down to strategy. They might decide to bring them in for the short stop so they can get them out into open track and potentially do an undercut on a car in front or anything like that. I don't know if that's any clearer, whether I've explained it or not, but our Orange Army doing a sterling job. Definitely oil and fluid on the track, so the powder, special stuff to absorb it, cement and whatever else, and hopefully get the track into tip-top condition. And the teams are working hard. Out with the gaffer tape. You know you've had good racing when the gaffer tape comes out.
Mustang, sponsored by gaffer tape. HRT, thankfully, had a lot of it. Might be different colours, but they managed to patch it up. Not easy, of course, because the cars are wet. Gaffer tape doesn't like sticking to wet so much, so I've had to work doubly hard to do that. Yeah, the pit stops. So yesterday, Leo Pickler and Simon Birch won, and they opted to do their long pit stop first. So they did a long pit stop first, but the teams that finished second and third did it the other way around. And that might have been affected by the penalties for Finn Wiebelhausen and Samuel de Vega. So Finn had 3 runs through the penalty box for his contact with the Schnitzel-Am Mercedes on the first lap on the run into turn 8 when he hit the back of the car. And sent it into the gravel trap at the time, and it was Moritz Viskirchen that was behind the wheel of the Mercedes. So they dropped to the back of the field with these 3 runs through the penalty box, and maybe that affected their thinking, and they opted to go with the long pit stop first. They got it out of the way, and anyway, it worked, despite having another penalty box run through a pit stop infringement for Salman Vega when he took over the wheel of the car. They still managed to come second, and then really sort of shooting through the order in the second half of the race were Max Rice and Nicholas Callas. They also saved their short pit stop for the second pit stop and came charging through, didn't they, in the last 15 minutes of the race to get their podium.
Yes, so it's all about the strategy, and you can certainly win and lose races in pit stops. We've seen that many times, and it's also the strategy when to bring the car in, when to get them out onto open track. And, of course, the additional complication, like we need any more confusion, is the weather, because if there's rain in the air, then it might be the teams want to wait for their wheel change pit stop, i.e. their long pit stop, so that they can change to wet weather tyres without having to make an additional stop in the race. You can't change tyres just regularly for no apparent reason, but if it's raining, you can come in and do a tyre change. Obviously, if you can combine that with your long stop, you could potentially save yourself a pit stop. So teams, if they think it's going to rain, may well delay the long stop, and if it does start to rain, you might suddenly see a lot of cars coming in at the same time. So all sorts of strategies playing out here, and it keeps us all on our toes, that's for sure, as we're guessing as to what the teams might do.
Definitely wet tyres on the #1 Mustang of Salman Vega, and we saw wet tyres going on to the #8 Jonas Karklis Lamborghini. We haven't seen everybody's work with the tyres, but I'd be surprised if anybody has stayed with a slick tyre. I think they're probably, we'll see when it gets going again, but probably all gone for the wet tyre now.
Yes, because the first pit window will open in the 15th minute of the race. Well, we've had nearly 2 3/4 minutes of the race already. Wow. So there's not actually that long that they would have to go on those tyres. So if the track were to dry out, they could come in the first stop, make that their long stop, change to dry weather tyres, and look at all that oil around the corner or whatever that is. Oh, that's the remnants of an under-tray rear diffuser from, I believe, a Mustang. Drag that out and take that and drop it in a skip somewhere, I should think. But yes, so changing back to slick tyres if the track does go dry. But look, there's a lot of work going on the Salman Vega car, so they're trying to fit the new rear diffuser. I think that's the old one that we've just seen dragged away. And start time estimated 3:45 local, so it's currently 15:33, so that's 11 minutes because it's just about to be 34. So according to my maths, that's 11 minutes. This is why they do the training down the gym. It's nothing to do with pit stops.
Using it as an umbrella, I think.
Yes. Oh, wise man. Wise man. So yes, the team that are working on a Vega's car have got to get their skates on here, pardon the pun, because 11 minutes is all they're going to have, and if that car's not ready to go, it'll be hauled off the grid. Well, the gaffer tape's out, so if all else fails, I'll tape the thing on. And there's a hammer as well. That's always good, isn't it? So, yes, they're working on it. It looks like the desperation has gone a bit. Wet weather tyres. So I think, as you say, I think everybody's going to be on the treaded tyres. I was about to say earlier on that the slick tyres, they obviously require heat to melt onto the surface of the track. And if the track's wet, they don't get up to temperature. It is worse than being on ice. Zero grip on a slick tyre on a wet track. It takes a brave man to keep one of those on. Of course, the treaded tyres displace the water and allow the cars some grip. But you cannot run treaded tyres on a dry track for very long, because if the track's dry, it will tear them apart.
Or on a damp track. And, I mean, it's just about wet at the moment, or kind of more very damp, isn't it? But there's not really a lot of surface water. And if the rain stops and these cars go round and start to mop up the any surface water, it's going to be pretty quickly that track starts to get a dry line. And the wet tyres will not like that. They'll completely start to overheat now. And it's going to be real tricky is deciding whether you come off them and go for slicks in that first pit stop, or you stick with the wets, do your first pit stop, hope the wets last until the second pit stop, or maybe you're going to have to come in again and change tyres. But then again, it might shower because that's what it's going to be, I think. It's going to be sunshine and showers. It's not going to be one or the other now for the rest of the race. So we could have some very random results. It's the nightmare, really, for race engineers and a team, because you just, whatever you do, it's going to be down to potluck, a bit of a gamble. We're going to go this way, it might work. We're going to go that way, it might be a disaster. If you're a front runner, you kind of also try and keep an eye on what the others are doing, because if you're further back down the field and you've got nothing to lose, that's the time to try something completely different. They're all on wets, you go for slicks. It might just boost you up the order. But if you're fighting for, well, it's too early to fight for the championship, but if you're fighting for wins and you're at the front, you've got to keep an eye on what the others around you are doing, because even if you all choose the wrong thing, well, you're all in the same boat, aren't you?
I think the team strategists are either rubbing their hands together because this is what they've lived for, or wishing they'd chosen a career in gardening. We talked about the championship. You mentioned it there. It is happening. It is alive because we've had points scored in yesterday's race and points scored in both the qualifying sessions. At the moment, Simon Birch and Leo Pichler lead the championship by 25 points. Just 1 point behind is Salman Vega and Finn Wiebelhaus. That was 22 points from yesterday, plus 2 points from qualifying this morning. Max Rice and Nicholas Callas are third with 19 points. So we are thinking of the championship at the moment. Now, I think the order that is on my timing screen is the order that we're going to be starting in. Janis Fischer, I believe, will be the leader of the race. Simon Birch in second, Jonathan Cicotto in third, Sandro Holzem in fourth, Dante Rapange in fifth, Salman Ovego, we saw just shaking his head in despair, in sixth. Our pole sitter, Nicholas Callas, all the way down in seventh. But we've seen both those Mustangs coming back yesterday. I would just say I'm not sure Mustangs have been on pole position in GT Masters. I need to check that. But it was great to have that as a headline, but that's a long distant memory. Carrie Schreiner in eighth, ahead of Dennis Bulatov in ninth. Then Alexander Schwarzer rounding out the top 10, but also leading in the Pro-Ams. Eduardo Cosseteng in 11th, ahead of Tim Zimmerman and Jonas Karklis in 13th. The only driver that we've lost, Simon Connor Prim. That is very much subject to confirmation, but I think the timing screen is gospel in this particular case, and they haven't changed it. We've still got 1 hour and 17 minutes and 14 seconds, if you want to be picky, of this race remaining. So plenty of time for those that have been shuffled down the pack to regather themselves. The other thing we haven't mentioned is a success ballast, because in ADAC GT Masters, if a driver pairing win, then for the following race only, not for qualifying, but for the following race, they have to carry a success ballast of 20 kilos. If a driver combination gets a second, they get 10 kilos, third gets 5 kilos, just for the next race. It means that Leo Pichler, Simon Birch are carrying an extra 20 kilos, Finn Wiebelhaus, Salman Vega an extra 10, Max Rice and Nicholas Callas an extra 5. There are many who would say that in wet conditions, the disadvantage of a success ballast is often negated, and in some cases can even be an advantage. That may be an old wives' tale, because I haven't got a clue, but that is what is happening at the moment. That is that Pichler and Birch are carrying an extra 20 kilos, which is actually a fairly significant amount of extra weight.
It is, when you're all lapping within a few hundredths of a second of each other. And also, there was a change to the balance of performance weight overnight, wasn't there? So the Ford Mustangs, which went very well yesterday in the race, second and third, have got 20 kilograms heavier with extra balance of performance weight on the cars. And there was a change with the Audis as well, wasn't there? They got lighter, I think. Yeah. And that was it. That was the change. But that was the main change for the Ford Mustangs. But you're right, it has less effect in damp and wet conditions, because that's all about traction and getting through the corners, rather than, you know, the extra weight that you're trying to accelerate out of a corner in the dry and brake under hard braking conditions in the dry. That extra weight does make a difference, but less so in wet conditions. And certainly if you go back to sort of the days of karting, when I was karting, if you had a heavier kart and more weight on the kart, it was better to keep the kart a bit more planted on the ground when it's very slippery out there as well.
Well, we'll find out about that in a bit. The rain is still coming down. It is 15:40 and 30 seconds, so we're 4.5 minutes away. The whistle has blown to clear the grid. Repairs that are going to be made have been done. Hopefully the gaffer tape is waterproof. It's going to hold everything together because we've got over an hour and a quarter of racing to come, and this could go in any direction. At the moment, Janis Fischer looks like is going to be the race leader. He's going to retain the race lead ahead of Simon Birch and Jonathan Cecotto. So we will go round. Certainly we'll have one lap behind the safety car. It might be that our race director decides to keep the safety car out for more than one lap. We'll find that one out at some point or the other, but they might decide just to circulate to get the heat into the tyres. But look at all that gaffer tape on the car of Nicholas Callas. Doesn't match, but hey, gets the job done. And we've seen cars with bits missing in the past winning races, so hopefully it won't affect it too much. The cleanup operation is still ongoing, as you can see. A lot of work being done. Now, where did all that fluid come from? I'm wondering, can only assume it must have been from Simon Connor Prim, because any car that lost that much fluid would not be taking the restart of this race. So here we are again, and that was the contact. I'm looking to see whether there's any fluid being laid that I can see. Well, it's really hard on a wet track. There's certainly smoke, but surely it has to be the Power Motorsport Lamborghini that left the oil, water, whatever it is on that corner, because a car that's missing that much fluid would not be fit for restarting the race.
So mainly that run, that back straight in the infield where they're looking between turns 7 and 8. That's where they are now. It's getting wetter again as well, isn't it?
They had to do track repairs earlier on Friday. We've got European Truck Championship here, which has created some interesting dynamics. It's laid a different kind of rubber on the circuit, and also we had damage to the circuit as well, just concrete getting lifted by the giant trucks. So we had delays to the GT Masters free practice on Friday while the track was repaired, and then we had to wait for the repair to dry. So our track staff have had their work cut out this weekend, and we'll have earned a well-earned cup of tea and a sit-down after this is done. That's what remains of the GT Masters field. But to remind you, yesterday was a fantastic race. If you didn't see it, I'm going to suggest that you check it out. It's available online and around the place. Check out yesterday's race. It was a great, great race. What a way to restart the season. After this, we head to Zandvoort in 2 weeks' time on the banked circuit in the Netherlands on the North Sea coast. Then we are back with the trucks again, actually, at the Nürburgring in July. Then a first ever visit to the Salzburgring in Austria in September. That's going to be interesting. We stay in Austria in September for the Red Bull Ring. That is the week after that. And then it all comes to a halt in Hockenheim. That's where the champions will be crowned at the beginning of October. So this is an endurance weekend. The Zandvoort round is a sprint. Nürburgring's endurance. Salzburgring is an endurance. Red Bull Ring is a sprint, and Hockenheim is a sprint. Sprint being a 1 hour race as opposed to 80 minutes, which this is, although this race is going to be measured in days if we don't get it going before too long.
Yeah, it's going to wind up being about 45 minutes behind schedule, isn't it? That's been a lengthy stoppage, but had to be done to ensure the safety of the drivers. Slippy enough with the wet conditions, and of course they're on slicks at the time, but wet and oil or wet and coolant, whatever it is that Lamborghini seems to have dropped, and seems to have dropped quite a lot of it, is a pretty nasty, potent combination. And you see from the windscreen on Janis Fischer's car there, the rain has started to come down a bit heavier. He's now the guinea pig, isn't he? Because he's the one that arrives at all the corners first. Yes, he might have wet tyres on, but no, he won't know exactly how much grip is available once they get going again, with Fischer leading them round once we get the race back up to speed. Simon Birch, yesterday's winner, second in the Porsche. Jonathan Cecotto in the first of the Mustangs, next up in third. Then Sandro Olsson in the BMW, followed by Dante Ripange in the Lamborghini. So actually the first five, all five different brands running at the front of the field. I suggest, as long as the gaffer tape works, one to watch might be from 6th place, Salman Vega, because he was obviously the champion of this category in 2023 alongside Elias Zeppelin, and finished third in the championship alongside David Schumacher last year. In fact, this is his fourth season of racing in the championship, so 4 different co-drivers that he's raced with, having come into the championship with Christopher Hasser in 2022. And also one to watch out for is going to be the other Mustang that's going to be right behind him, Nicholas Callas, who, remember, was quick enough to be on pole position, but on pole position on a dry, very different looking track this morning.
It's a baptism of fire and water for Nicholas Callas. Remember, this is his first ever weekend in the ADAC GT Masters. Last year he was in GT4 racing in Porsche Sports Cup Germany in the Sprint Challenge, and he was also racing next-gen cup cars, electric minis. Couldn't be more different. Right, you'll see from your graphic 2 laps behind the safety car. I think it's very sensible. Several reasons for that. One, to try and generate a bit of heat into the wet weather tyres and into the brakes so that there's a bit of grip and a bit of stopping power once this race gets underway, but also just to run through some of the areas where the cleanup operation has taken place to try and clear some of that dust to allow the drivers opportunity to establish where the grip is. You can see there, just passing through it, that brown snake of dirt and cement and all the rest of it has been used to mop up the oil and coolant that's been out on the track, and the drivers actually avoiding that like the plague. They might just be doing that for the rest of the race. Up into turn 8 they come. It was just up on that stretch there where we had the repair work done as well on Friday. Around turn 8 and into turn 9. So it's a good opportunity to generate the heat. And again, that allows us just to check the race order. So it is Janis Fichter, Simon Birch, Jonathan Cecotto, Sandra Holzem, good job there, into 4th place. Dante Rapinge from the last row of the grid up into 5th place. Salman Avegler and Nicholas Callas, their instructions have been don't drive into each other anymore. Carrie Schreiner, you recognise that name from F1 Academy. She's been there for a couple of years, has come back to her roots. So welcome back, Carrie Schreiner. She was last in GT Masters back in 2020. Very welcome. Denis Bulatov, keep an eye on him in 9th place. He's not scared to get his elbows out either. And then Alex Schwarzer, the leading Pro-Am driver, Eduardo Cosseteng in the BMW, and another BMW with him, Tim Zimmerman, both of those cars for FK Performance Motorsport, and then Jonas Karklis in the Lamborghini at the rear. But his main challenger is Alexander Schwarzer in 10th place, so that's who he'll be focusing on as we start and continue, in fact, on the 2nd of our safety car laps.
The good news, Brian, is that it is properly wet now, because just before they got back underway, the rain properly came back and increased. So rather than being very damp and potentially drying out quite quickly, it's definitely a circuit that will create some surface water now, even at these lowish speeds. You can see there's a bit of a plume coming from the back of the safety car and from the pack. So there is surface water there now. So the wet tyres will work, they won't overheat. But again, if it stops raining, it won't last forever, it'll dry out quickly. So the good news for now, I think, and certainly for the first pit stop, is probably going to be staying with the wet tyre. On board with Tim Zimmerman in the FK Performance BMW, Leighton Fury, the South African driver who won the BMW M2 Cup 2 years ago, moved to GT4 and finished 4th in the championship last year, is his co-driver, and they were going well, weren't they, yesterday? The last stint they were running 4th, maybe had an outside chance of a podium, but the BMW, Leighton was saying, just started to eat its tyres in the dry conditions towards the end of the race, and they were looking at that, looking at the data and trying to figure out how they can prevent that, because it went backwards a little bit in the last few laps of the race. But they won't have this problem today because it's a wet circuit. So they are coming towards the end of this 2nd lap behind the safety car. The safety car has peeled away now. We'll head into the pit lane there. You can see safety car lights out, and that means we're about to go back up to full race speed, Brian, with just over 72 minutes to go.
You'll have noticed the clock started ticking on the previous lap, the 2nd lap behind the safety car counting as part of the race. But now it'll be the job of Janis Fichter to nail the accelerator when he's ready. Well, I think he's done that already. He wants to try and open up that gap on Simon Birch. They can't overtake each other until they get to the start-finish line. So a very eager-looking Dante Rapinge on the inside of Sandra Holzem has to be careful not to make the jump too soon, but he's ready to pounce as soon as he can. So running side by side in towards turn 1. 1st, 2nd and 3rd. Nice clean start. Dante Rapinge loving these conditions, it seems. Up another position from the back row, now into 4th place. Sandra Holzem, ex-DTM driver, is relegated down a position. Salman Vega in the background with teammate Nicholas Callas behind. Coming round the outside, I said keep an eye on Denis Bulatov. Well, this is why in the Audi, sails past Nicholas Callas. Salman Vega, in the meantime, has a bumper to the inside of Sandra Holzem. Back out onto the tri-oval, side by side. Into turn 6 they come. Salman Vega looks to have that position sealed, but look at Denis Bulatov on the inside. Looks to have a lot of grip. Also there, Carrie Schreiner. Those Audis look especially quick in this wet weather, but Gary Schreiner goes deep on the corner into turn 7, keeps it out of the gravel, but all that hard work, and suddenly that's Alexander Schwarzer, who was in 11th, Tim Zimmerman, so I think Gary Schreiner is going to go to the back.
In the race today, there was a threat in DTM of potential rain. Obviously, it came after the DTM race, but when asked about it, René Rast said, I hope it doesn't rain because the BMW doesn't like the wet. And I don't think the BMW likes the wet in GT Masters either, because looking at Sandro Holzem, as we get the Lamborghini smashing through one of the marker boards, but staying just about on the track, Holzem's car through, as it came off the tri-oval through turn 6, was all over the place, massive understeer, and also struggling in the other BMW towards the back of the field, Tim Zimmerman. So they want it to dry out. It doesn't look like it's going to, because there's a huge plume of spray coming off the back of the race-leading Mercedes, and Fitcher really is the only one with clear vision here. Look at the Simon Birch Porsche dancing around under braking. Mind you, he did that with a couple of overtakes yesterday into turn 1. It's ultra bumpy out there on this circuit as well, which doesn't help things, Brian.
Eduardo Kozateng overtook behind the safety car. I think it might have been a bit quick getting away. Penalty lap 3 times. You have to visit the penalty box, which is painted on the track. And I was looking here again at, that is Dante Rapange doing a bit of off-roading, shortening one of our billboards. We'll send the invoice to him, and continues on his way. But Eduardo Kozateng, in fact, a couple of cars, that was Kozateng that was going off wide. That was Alexander Schwarzer, who has driven with great maturity here. He seems to be the only car that hasn't been off the track. I think Denis Bulatov might have kept it on as well. But Eduardo Kozateng, on the exit of turn 5, there is a penalty box that's painted on tracks 50 metres long. They have to pass through that 3 times at about 50 kilometres an hour. That'll be the equivalent to adding 15 seconds onto his lap time.
So that's Bulatov in the blue Audi, just getting himself up to 4th place now, ahead of Dante Rapange, who was all over the shop. I mean, he was dancing over the tarmac, trying to lay down 550 brake horsepower, and the car just didn't want to have it. So as he struggled and slipped and slid around, the Audi, with much better traction of Bulatov, has just left him behind. So he's going to end up in about probably a second and a half up the road at the end of the lap. So Bulatov, the one to watch here in the blue number 16 Audi. He's up to 4th place now. His next target is going to be Jonathan Cecotto in the number 2 Ford Mustang. The race leader, Janis Fitcher, goes through 1.8 seconds clear. He's done the fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 38.7 versus a 1:39.4 for Birch in 2nd place. So that gap is growing massively. And in the background, we've got cars coming out of the mist absolutely side by side here.
Gary Schreiner.
Yeah, that's going to be Holzem going wide and deep into the corner. That BMW's massively struggling, isn't it?
Yeah, and Schreiner's come back brilliantly after a wild moment earlier on. So she's come back. The BMWs, as you say, definitely struggling. Of course, Janis Fitcher has that clear view in front of him. Everybody else is having to deal with a lot of spray. Tim Zimmerman now up and behind Alexander Schwarzer, who's in 10th place. I think Schwarzer will not want to get into an unnecessary fight with him. Gap on the inside. We are only 2.25 minutes away from the pit window opening, and I think the teams are going to be doing delaying tactics for their long stop because they'll want to see what the weather's going to do before they decide what tyres to put them on. So at the moment, we're about 2 minutes away from that window opening. We're looking at the fight for 10th place. It is Alexander Schwarzer in the red and white Porsche, the orange and black BMW, Tim Zimmerman fighting for position, trying to get into the top 10, but also in there as well, Jonas Karklees.
Spare a thought for some of the new drivers in this championship that have come up from the likes of GT4. They would have never driven a GT3 car in the wet around this circuit before until they're thrown into the deep end in this race. So it's a real tall order to try and control these cars, having never had the experience of doing it before. Janis Fitcher has got experience, and he is driving beautifully at the moment in the lead of the race in that Schnitzeland Mercedes. He's going at the moment over a second a lap quicker than most of the other cars out there. The only one that's really kind of living with him is Simon Birch. So last lap, a 1:38.6, another fastest lap of the race for the leader, a 1:38.79, 10th and a half slower for Simon Birch. Everybody else is in the 1:39s or 40s, with the exception of Denis Bulatov, who's also in the 1:38. So he's starting to close up now to Jonathan Cecotto, but he's still around about 2.5 seconds behind him.
Dennis Bulatov is Mr. Adaptable, because last year he was in an Aston Martin. We've seen him in GT4 and a Mercedes. He certainly knows how to adjust his driving to whatever he is driving. He's certainly suited very well to the Audi. Right, Nicholas Callas looking to the inside of Samuel Vega. Is this payback time? I don't think so. Vega in 6th place. There is Callas on his debut weekend in GT Masters. Vega goes deep into the corner, just carrying too much speed. That's the only invitation Callas needs. The debutant in GT Masters has just overtaken a former champion in an identical car.
Yeah, massive understeer for Samuel Vega. He just couldn't get the front end turned in. He's coming back onto the tail of his teammate now. You've seen the onboard camera for that orange and black BMW there of Tim Zimmerman. He's trying to find a way past the FAC Autotech Porsche, driven in this phase by the bronze-graded driver, Alexander Schwarzer. Alexander doing an excellent job here at the moment, running in 10th place. Their pit stops are 10 seconds shorter as well than the pro combinations, but he might be about to lose the place here. Zimmerman squeezing up the inside, the BMW, noses in front, slides as he gets on the gas, but the Porsche comes back at him now. They're still hand in hand as they come out of the final turn at turn 12. The Porsche getting the inside line and better traction. The BMW all over the shop on the high line and trying to avoid going into the wall, and that means that the Porsche of Schwarzer stays ahead. But look at the BMW thundering now on the traction, drawing alongside. He'll get the inside line. He's just got to make sure he hits the brakes now without locking up, without going too deep into the corner, as they slow down to just about 80 kilometres an hour in the wet. He covers off the line and he finally gets through, but here comes the Porsche back at him under traction. BMW though has done it, and a battle that lasted for about a third of a lap.
He got so much momentum out of that final corner in the BMW. You saw him going up high and he came steaming around, but the Porsche looking very nimble. I said it once, I'll say it again. Alexander Schwarzer driving with incredible maturity, bronze-rated driver, holding it all together. The Porsche's looking dialed in. Now, though, he's got Jonas Karklees. Now, he is challenging him in the Pro-Am Championship. Here's a look again at that battle. Tim Zimmerman on the outside line, but Schwarzer just keeping it tidy, making Tim Zimmerman work really hard to get that position, forcing him to go the long way around, positioning the Porsche exactly in the right place. Eventually, Zimmerman, in the closing part of the laps, able to get high out of turn 11 and then into turn 12. Zimmerman would have been rubbing up quite close to the wall at this point, somewhere around here, and then out along the pit straight into turn 1 on the brakes, nice and steady. But still, Alexander Schwarzer did try and have a little look to come back at him. You can see he carried so much more speed down the pit straight, though, in towards turn 1.
Drivers are starting to get to grips with this now, because 2/3 of the field have just set their personal best laps of the race. So they're starting to just work up to it now. Okay, we'll put the power down a bit earlier here. We'll brake a bit later here. It's also about being progressive in these conditions, when you're braking, when you're accelerating, avoiding the wheel spin, but also avoiding locking up. We'll have ABS on the cars, but it's still easy to get it wrong under braking. Now, here comes Dennis Bulatov, and he's ahead of Chicotto, isn't he, in the background of that shot. So Bulatov has found a way into 3rd place ahead of the number 2 black and gold Ford Mustang of Jonathan Chicotto.
Pit window is open. Alexander Schwarzer is in. Is this going to be a long stop or a short stop? Right, they're allowed to refuel. This is not going to be the case in the sprint races. Refueling normally not allowed. There is the very experienced Alex Fack. We've seen him a superstar in Porsche Mobil 1 Super Cup, Porsche Carrera Cup Germany, now Porsche in GT Masters for the 2nd year. They are the defending Pro-Am champions. It looks like we're going to get a wheel change. They're not allowed to change the wheels until the refueling is finished, but you can see everybody's cleared. So it's going to be a short stop for Fack and Schwarzer as a bit of off-roading for the number 6 car. That is Dante Rapange. He's had a lively first stint in this race. Try and keep it all together. Here is Dennis Bulatov on the inside of Jonathan Chicotto, eventually trying to find the route past. The timing screens at the moment are saying that Chicotto's in front. Then maybe they need to still cross the line. No, Bulatov has done it. So Bulatov is up into that 3rd place. So pit window's open, 2 cars in. So now Eduardo Lausitzring into the pits, handing over to Julian Hanses. He's another driver who is able to adapt himself. Every weekend he's driving a different brand of car. I think if he's got 4 wheels, even whatever it is, he will manage to drive it and win in it. Right, Salman Vega is in as well, the #1 car. He's probably had enough for the time being. The very impressive Finn Wiebelhaus will be getting ready to jump in. Also, Sandra Holzen will be handing over to his twin brother, Giuliano. So those are the main runners and riders that are in at the moment. 4 cars, so hitting the mark. So Salman Vega getting ready to get out of the car. There's Finn Wiebelhaus. So Vega will get back into the seat of that car after the second pit stop, or during the second pit stop. Seat insert goes in. So now Salman Vega, right, this is going to be a long stop. They're changing the tyres on these cars. So a long stop for #1. Finn Wiebelhaus jumps in. It means that when they do their second stop later on, it will be a shorter minimum pit stop time. Plenty of time to do the job here. At the moment, 100 seconds from pit entry to pit exit. They must not go below that. You might go, well, why are the team not all working on it? They're allowed 1 wheel gun. That's it. The responsibility down to 1 person. And it has to be one of those handheld electric wheel guns. That's exactly what they've done. And the wheels are changed. And now they'll wait for the clock to tick down. And they'll want to hit, Finn Wiebelhaus will want to hit the exit line as soon as the clock strikes 0. He must not get to the exit line beforehand. He cannot slow down in the fast lane. So when he leaves, look at his eyes. You can see he's looking at the dashboard, and it will have told him when to go. Now onto the pit speed limiter as soon as he's up to speed. And in theory, he'll hit the line when the clock strikes 0. We're looking at the car #1, 100.3. So 0.3 of a second over. That's a good safety margin. He's out back onto the track. Also there, into the pits, is Nicholas Callas handing it over to Max Rice. So exactly the same procedure there. We'll look to see whether that is going to be the long stop or the short stop. Chris alongside me is making notes so that we can work out who has done what, and so that we know at the end of the race who has done their long stop, who has done their short. Right, here we go. So there's Max Rice opening the door. Going to tear the driver out, Nicholas Callas. He has done a sterling job. Max Rice as well, one of the real up-and-coming talents in GT racing. Great guy, a great team, both of them, in fact, had a good partnership. They seem to be really getting on well together. Neither of them have much seat time in the car. They're getting used to the Mustang, so they've had very little time. As we see our race leader, Janis Fischer, just coming round to lap Alex Fack at the moment. But, of course, Janis Fischer will need to come in the next 4.5 minutes into the pits. See the clock ticking down for what will be Max Rice in the #3 car in the pits. Here comes our race leader, so he's continuing for another lap, but he's going to have to come in before too long. Simon Birch, he's still out at the moment. The gap between first and second is 1.695, so Birch is not allowing him to get away. There he is in the red and white, the foremost of the red and white Porsches into turn 1. So that's your first and second. Both need to stop. Bulatov in 3rd place also needs to stop. Jonathan Cecotto in 4th place also needs to stop. Dante Rapange in 5th, ahead of Carrie Schreiner. All of these need to stop, as does Tim Zimmerman and Jonas Karkelis. The leading stopper at the moment is Alex Fack. Problems here. Oh, no, and it looks as though we've got a problem with that car. They're pushing it back. There is Nicholas Callas and Max Rice. Max Rice is there undoing his helmet, and it looks as though there's a problem with the car. Can't hear what they're saying, but oh, this is a disaster, and it looks as though Max Rice is not going to get a drive today. Looks like there may well be an issue. Oh, what a shame. So the pole-sitting car, and having finished on the podium yesterday, clearly an issue. They've pulled the car back, and there is Max Rice, and he'll be so frustrated. They were so excited yesterday. Now, what is going on here? They've taken the boot lid off, so something, I wonder if it's to do with the damage on that rear. You see, they're looking at that rear left quarter, aren't they? And wondering if it's something that has become as a result of the incident on the opening lap of the race. Whichever way, podium or potentially a finish now very much out of the question. And it looks as though at that point, Max Rice was in the car. Right, here's... Yeah, no, it does not. Is he going? Looks as though No, he's out of the car, and it looks as though they are retiring the car. So that is a real shame, isn't it? Right, Jonathan Chicotto is now into the pits. Also, Gary Schreiner, Tim Zimmerman, Jonas Karklees is in. We've only got 2 minutes and 15 seconds for the top 3 to come in. So Janis Fischer, Simon Birch, Dennis Bulatov are going to have to get their skates on. Right, here we go. This is the leader, Janis Fischer. Simon Birch has caught up with him. He fancies passing him before they get into the pit window. Right, Jonathan Chicotto handing over to Dennis Fetzer, who had a very brief stint in the car yesterday, looking to make up for that, so he's in. Dante Rapinge, he's had an epic opening stint, handing over to Simon Ladniak in the number 6 car. So it's the long pit stop for the number 2 car. So Jonathan Chicotto, Dennis Fetzer getting their long stop out of the way nice and early. Right, these two are going to have to come in this time around because they're not going to have enough time to get around before the clock strikes 0. So they're both going to have to pit. First and second, they're going to come into the pit lane at the same time. In fact, 1, 2, 3 are all going to come in pretty well in a row. I mean, Dennis Bulatov is about 5 seconds back from this, but closing rapidly. In they come into the pits. So Janis Fischer in the number 21 car. Moritz Viskersen will be standing by to take over. Leo Pichler will be standing by to take over from Simon Birch. And Nico Handke will be standing by to take over from Dennis Bulatov. So this is going to be critical to get the minimum pit stop time exactly on the money. You do not want to be losing time in the pits, but you don't want to get too eager and try and do an overtake and end up going below the minimum pit stop time. Right, they come to a stop. So let's have a look. At the moment, the refueling starts. Remember, the refueler has to be clear of the car before any wheel changes can take place. So we won't know. Right, he's clear of the car. So this is a short stop for Janis Fischer and Moritz Viskersen. So a short stop for the car that was leading. Oh, no. Yes, it is. I saw. I'm just looking. Actually, is there a... I can hear the wheel gun going and taking the door off. They've put it back on again. You need one of those on it, but I just checking there isn't actually somebody working on the car. No, so it is a short stop for number 21, but there is a wheel change on the Simon Birch and Leo Pichler car. So they are going for their short stop. So they're going to come out in front, behind, should I say, the race leader that was coming into this. So the 21 car, Moritz Viskersen at the wheel, is going to be well clear. Looks like it was a short stop also for Nico Handke, Dennis Bulatov, but a long stop for Leo Pichler and Simon Birch. So they will have an advantage when we get to the second pit stop. So they're getting the long one out of the way nice and early. So out onto the track comes Moritz Viskersen, continues in the lead of the race. Nico Handke up to second. Leo Pichler into third place, dropping at the moment because Simon Ladniak briefly was in front, but now Leo Pichler back up into that third place. But remember, we'll have a shorter pit stop next time around. So there you go, first and second. First pit window closed. So with all the pit stops done and dusted, I haven't seen any red P's, so that's a good sign that no one's gone under the minimum pit stop time. It looks like we've lost Nicholas Callas and Max Rice. Clearly, we've lost Simon Conoprim and Finn Zulav as well on the opening lap of the race. Everybody else is still running, and this is your race leader, Moritz Viskersen with Nico Handke. Nico Handke, both the Viskersen and Handke have come through GT4 Germany, but I would wager that Handke probably has more experience on account of the fact that he was in GT Masters for a full season last year. Here comes the third place, Leo Pichler, but remember, he has that advantage in his back pocket.
Yeah, plaudits to the FAC Autotech team, one of the first to come in, and as Pro-Am pairing, they have shorter pit stops than everybody else. So their short pit stops 70 seconds rather than 80. Their long pit stops 90 seconds rather than 100. So the number 4 came in and they went for the short pit stop. So the minimum time they're meant to be in the pits, including the run in, the stop and the run back out of the pit lane exit, should be 70 seconds. And they did it in 70.1 seconds, about as good good as you can get. So it was a really good effort. The ones that have really kind of lost out, they've done a short pit stop, the number 21 Schnitzelhelm car, but their short pit stop should have been 80 seconds. They lost 4 seconds. They did it in 84. So they'll be up at the moment because they've had a short pit stop, but they lost 4 seconds compared to what they should have had, really.
And they might be about to lose the lead here because Nico Handke in that Audi, which is loving these wet conditions, has closed in on the race leader. So Moritz Viskersen goes wide. Come on, keep it out the gravel, keep it going. He's certainly lost the lead. You'll see the wide eyes as he tries to get it back on track. The gravel bumping up onto the windscreen. He's kept it going, but that has just handed the lead on a plate, gift wrapped to Nico Handke. Moritz Viskersen drops down into second. Fortunately for him, Leo Pichler's quite a long way back still. Let's have another look here. The track's so greasy, just going deep, getting off the racing line onto that really slippery section. Going onto the gravel, but not too deep. So the gravel's slowing the car down, but not bringing it to a stop. Just really important to keep on the power. I think it was up at turn, it's up at turn 7, I think it is. But he keeps it going. Skirts across the gravel, is able to rejoin, somehow has held on to second place. So Leo Pichler wasn't close enough to do anything about it as a result of that longer pit stop. But you can see that's the moment, eyes wide as he tries to get back onto the track as quickly as possible. We'll try and scrub those tyres clean. But a gift for Nico Handke in the Sport PHX Audi, the team that were formerly Phoenix Racing, just based opposite the Nürburgring on the industrial estate just across the road. There's another one, Simon Ladniak, also skirting off into the gravel. He was in 4th place at the time. We'll see where he ends up when he crosses the timing beam. So clearly conditions are not getting any easier there. But yes, Sport PHX from what was once Phoenix Racing. Ernst Moser and has now handed the team over to his son Ron, doing a great job. Great to have that team back in GT Masters.
So we saw the number 6 Lambo, the Liqui Moly Inkster car of Ladniak going through the gravel trap. He lost about 10 seconds in the process of getting it back on track, and he also lost a position. So Dennis Fetzer in the number 2 Mustang has come ahead of him now. So the race leader, number 6 Nico Handke in the Audi, and Nico Handke going for the short pit stop first. And then second place, having had the run through the gravel trap that we saw, number 21 Moritz Viskersen, also got the short pit stop done first, so they've got a longer pit stop to come. And then third, and in a really good position at the moment, is that red and white Porsche of Leo Pichler. Now, they did their long pit stop first, which means the next pit stop is going to be 20 seconds shorter than the 2 cars ahead of them. At the moment, he's 22 seconds behind the race leader. So if he can get to within 20 seconds, in fact, he's not anymore because they come through. He's starting to close the gap, I think. But if he can get to within 20 seconds, then he basically has a chance of getting back in the lead. Dennis Fetzer in 4th place, number 2. They also did their long pit stop, so they've got a shorter pit stop to come. So the cars in 3rd and 4th, number 14 Porsche, number 2 Ford, will have much shorter pit stops than the 2 cars ahead of them when we get to the next window.
Looking at a replay of Finn Wiebelhaus, one of the stars, the comeback stars of yesterday, sailing past Leighton Fury in the number 11 BMW. I think Fury struggling for traction. Again, the BMW really struggling in these conditions. So that's another position for Finn Wiebelhaus as he continues his march forwards through the field, looking through the mist and the murk, headlights ablaze. And there is Julian Hanses, who's taken over from Eduardo Cosseteng. He's like, let me show you how it's done. He's up to 7th place. It was stone last at the one point in this race. So fighting forwards, Julian Hanses, a hugely talented driver. I've already mentioned to you, if he's got wheels, he'll drive it and he'll win in it if at all possible. And he's proving that as he pushes forwards. There is Moritz Viskersen. After that moment, we're having another look here where he went off onto the gravel. Is this the same one or is this a different one? But I think it's the same moment, isn't it, where he went off onto the gravel, was able to keep it all going and rejoin. But that has just handed more of an advantage to Leo Pichler. But Simon Ladniak now, if this brings out a safety car, this will really change the dynamic for those that have taken their long pit stop first. But at the moment, it it could be a full course yellow. I think we're going to get a caution because Simon Ladniak is stranded out on the gravel. Clearly, that part of the circuit is very, very slippery. He's out on turn 7, and he's there. I don't think he's going anywhere in a hurry.
He was trying to get the position back from Dennis Fetzer, wasn't he? Trying to go around the outside of him. Fetzer on the inside, and then he just lost grip, understeered, and as soon as you touch that grass, which has become mud, back end skittered around, but he was trying to get 4th place back away. It's a full course yellow that we're going to go for now. Now, Nico Hanke, any kind of safety car would be a nightmare for him because he's 28 seconds up the road on 3rd place, and 3rd place is the one he's really trying to beat because his pit stop's going to be 20 seconds longer than the team in 3rd. Alex Fack showing us coming into the pits. Here he is. So Alex Fack comes in. Now, this is an issue, and they were in a good position as well because as a Pro-Am pairing, they get shorter pit stops than several cars that he got lined up. So in comes Alex Fack, and I'm afraid this might be an issue. Having had a strong race yesterday, that looks like it might be that in terms of the race.
Oh, has he got a puncture?
Is he going to change?
Looks like it might. Oh, has he changed? Yeah, it looks like he's got a puncture because you wouldn't change. You're not allowed to change tyres outside. Now, I'm not entirely sure what's happening there. They're allowed to change a tyre if they've got a puncture, but outside of the pit windows, you cannot do tyre changes unless it's from wet to dry. There is a wing mirror going south. Now, I need to probably check the rule book as to whether you can change wets for wets. I don't think you can during the race if it's not in a pit window. So I'm not entirely sure what's happening there, unless he had a double puncture. It didn't look like it to me. But we'll keep an eye on the timing screen. Just talking to the timing screen, we saw Max Rice retiring from the car. One thing I've noticed is that car number 3, which is that car, did receive a black and orange flag, which is a warning they needed to come into the pits because the car was in a dangerous condition. So the Nicholas Callas Max Rice car was called into the pits by race control with a black and orange flag, what is affectionately known as the meatball flag. But that is why it came in, and clearly they decided whatever the issue was, it can be repaired. Right, now, this is not the pit window.
They're wet tyres that are ready to go on. They're wet tyres that are coming off, as far as I can see.
Yeah, I mean, if they were taking slicks off, now, I'm not entirely sure that is within the rules to change 2 tyres. I'm looking at, I'm going to need to look at the small print of, oh no, it's all 4, but it's outside of the pit window.
So they're still going to have to come into the pit window, aren't they?
Because the pit window
starts with 25 minutes to go, yeah.
Yeah, but tyre changes are not normally permitted outside of the pit window in GT Masters.
It's a wet race, though.
Oh dear. We're looking at Appendix 37F or something for this one.
I must have been not happy with the tyres, though, to come in and
do wet for wet.
Tyres, yeah.
Yeah, we'll find out about that. Right, under investigation for entering the pit lane under full course yellow, apart from anything else. So they thought they could do a cheap stop under full course yellow, I think. Which they're not allowed to do that here, and that is an investigation by race control. And I did actually look at that. I printed it off somewhere. I've lost it now, but there is an issue here at the Lausitzring. We're under full course yellow. The pit window, well, you can't come into the pits. It's certainly not counted as a mandatory stop. We're getting right into the dark depths of the rule book here, and there are people that are way cleverer than me that will probably be looking at that and deciding. We'll let you know if there is any outcome from any of that. At the moment, the outcome of this full course yellow, Nico Hanke praying in the car that it doesn't become a safety car, that is for sure, because that gap is going to be critical. So leads the way, Moritz Biskerschen, 22.156 behind. Leo Pickler, 20.985 behind him. Of course, with the full course yellow, everybody decelerates, accelerates at a slightly different time when it comes out and when it finishes. So you do get a change in the gap. But we are now 10 seconds away from going back to green flag onto the power. Dennis Fetzer, the grunt of that Mustang. You listen to it, you can hear the grunt, you can see it when he hits the power. Right, we're back under green flag condition. So away we go once again. Alan Valente, he's a fairly wise and steady pilot at the wheel of the Audi, having taken over from Gary Schreiner, and he is going to be pressuring Dennis Fetzer. We saw him last year, very impressive at the Red Bull Ring as a guest driver, doing a full season this year in 4th place. Alan Valente, I think, is going to be putting the pressure on. Look at the background, Julian Hanses, those lights.
Oh, it's Mr. Corner!
And into the gravel.
straight through. That big, heavy Mustang's difficult in these conditions, isn't it? And Fetzer a long way deep into the gravel now, losing a ton of places. He'll get it back on track, but he's going to lose 10 or 12 seconds at least here. A real shame for him. So Valente moves up to 4th place. He has got a long pit stop to come, though, whereas Fetzer has a short pit stop to come. So if he's still within 20 seconds of Valente, he might get him back later on in the race. Hanses in the number 10 black and white BMW has also still got a long pit stop to come.
He's on a mission.
Bits of bodywork flying off one of the BMWs here by the looks of things. Flashing the lights, trying to get through. Alain Valente, who's in his 3rd season of GT Masters, and his 3rd different type of car. He started with the Mercedes with Ralph Aron 2 years ago, runner-up in the championship. He was a Ferrari driver last year with the Emile Fry, and now here he is driving the Audi and driving it very well indeed. So there, the number 68 car, the pink and white Audi. He's got a long pit stop to come. So does the car right behind him, Julian Hanses. So this is definitely a proper fight for position. They're on the same pit stop strategy. The BMW should be quick in a straight line, but the straight's not long enough for him to apply the pressure into turn 6.
I'm not entirely sure whether Fetzer got distracted by Valente or those massive headlights of Julian Hanses, but whatever, it's worked on Valente. I spoke to Hanses a little bit earlier this morning, and he was in fighting spirit. I have to tell you, he knew he had a bit of work to do from further back on the grid, but he was going to come steaming through. He's doing exactly what he says. We've seen him for many years in the world of GT racing. He has been in many different classes, a winner in most disciplines he's taken part in, and certainly he plans to be on the podium this afternoon. He's doing a great job with the number 10 FK Performance Motorsport BMW. He's left Alain Valente in the Audi which has been doing very well in the wet conditions, but has nothing for Julian Hanses, who is man on a mission, taking no prisoners into 4th place. Next up the road will be Leo Pichler. Here's our race leader, Nico Hanske. Right, the gap between 1st and 2nd at the moment, 19.507. Pichler is just 8.499 back from Moritz Viskersen. So
the key gap, though, is the one from 1st to 3rd, because the first two both got long pit stops to come. The car in 3rd, Pichler, number 14 Porsche, has got a short pit stop to come, which should be 20 seconds shorter. And at the moment, Hanke is doing a fine job here in this blue and lime green Audi, because he has kept that gap at more than 20 seconds. He's 28 in front. So in theory, if the pit stops all go according to plan, he'll still have an 8-second lead after the pit stop, even though he's doing a long one when we get into the next window.
And we've got a drive-through penalty. I think they took a while looking at the rule book. A drive-through penalty for the FAC Autotech car, Alex Fack and Alexander Schwarzer, for entering the pit lane under a full course yellow. So irrespective of whether they were allowed to change tyres or not, they weren't allowed to come into the pits during the full course yellow. Drive-through penalty. That's going to be pretty devastating. Emil Yerdrum has already moved up into the lead of the Pro-Am race. He's in 9th place. The Pro-Am drivers indicated by the green boxes around the numbers on your graphic. So already Alex Fack had dropped out of the lead of the Pro-Am race. This is going to be a really tall order to get to the top step of the podium in the Pro-Ams in this race with that drive-through penalty, which is going to add probably something like, I don't know, maybe 25, 30 seconds to the lap time. Whatever it is, it's going to be a big old penalty he's going to have to accommodate. It's going to drop him to stone last in this race.
Yes, and Emil Yerdrum already in the Pro-Am category lead, running in 9th place overall in the number 8 Nico Molly Enxler car. Now, this car is one that should go forwards after the next pit stops as well, because Finn Wiebelhaus and Salvador Vega have already done their long pit stops, so the 2 cars directly ahead of them, Hanses, number 10, in 4th, and Valente, number 68, in 5th, have got to stop for 20 seconds longer, and he's only 0.7 of a second behind Valente, and he's only 4 seconds behind Hanses. So this number 1 Mustang should, without having to do any overtaking, once the next pit stops happen, if it goes to plan, they should move from 6th to at least 4th place.
Right, here is Alex Fack going through the pits. Got to keep to the pit speed limit, which is 50 kilometers an hour. That's going to feel very, very painful. So through he comes. I think that is probably just a misunderstanding of the rules, because Fack Autotech, a great team, a legendary team, and they probably just misunderstood what they were allowed to do at a full course yellow. Coming into the pits and performing a tyre change was not one of the things on the yes list. So he'll get back out, up to speed, but that is going to be really painful. There is our race leader who's just about to come round and put a lap on the FAC Autotech car. So Nico Handke, well clear of Moritz Viskersen. I know you've just done some of this, but while we've got a bit of space on the track, we probably ought to just say who's doing longs and shorts amongst the leaders. So Nico Handke has got a
long pit stop to come, but has got enough time in hand at the moment to make a long pit stop and still be the race leading car. The second place car, number 21, has also got a long pit stop to come, Viskersen in the Mercedes. The third place car has got a short pit stop to come. They've got the long one out of the way already. It should be 20 seconds shorter than the two cars ahead of it. It'll jump it past the Mercedes, but he's not close enough in terms of time. He's 27 seconds at the moment behind Handke to jump the Audi as well. So it should be that if it stays in this sort of distance between the cars as we've got now, after the pit stops, Handke and then his teammate that takes over from the wheel of the car, the number 16 machine will, and that'll be Dennis Bolotov, will still be the leaders of the race, but the Pickler car should move ahead of the Viskersen-driven Mercedes into second. Fourth place car, number 10, black and white BMW, has got a long pit stop to come as well. So has the fifth place Audi of Alan Valente. That's got a long pit stop to come, but the car in sixth and the car in seventh, the two Ford Mustangs, they've both got short pit stops to come. So as I say, Wiebelhaus should jump ahead of the two cars ahead of him. Well, it'll be a Vega when he gets into the car, and Fetzer is probably close enough to jump ahead of Valente, maybe not close enough to jump ahead of Hanses. So they're going to be moving up the order. Definitely the number 1 Mustang will gain a couple of places. 8th place is the number 11 Leighton Fury-driven BMW. That's got a short pit stop to come, so that's closer up the order than you would think. And then 9th place is the leading Pro-Am car, looking good for a Pro-Am victory now. So that's shorter pit stops than everybody anyway. It did its long pit stop first as well. So that car, in theory, is only going to have to stop for 70 seconds. Some of the other cars around it, 30 seconds longer for 100 seconds.
Gosh.
So that's going to come flying up the order, isn't it, that Lamborghini, the number 8 car?
That's going to move him right into
if he stays on the track.
Yeah, so that's that is a bit of drifting going on, and the woes for FAC Autotech continue. So now speeding under a full course yellow. They need to go to full course yellow school and learn the rules, I think, because speeding under a full course yellow, an investigation, they wouldn't be investigating it unless they had some evidence of it. So I fear for what might be coming next for FAC Autotech. Alex Fack, the last of the runners at the moment. We've lost Simon Ladniak, we've lost Nicholas Callas, and we've lost Simon Connor Prim. So the last of the runners, Alex Fack, and there may well be another penalty, this time 3 times to the penalty box for speeding under a full course yellow. So Alex Fack is going to have another 15 seconds, the equivalent of which added onto his lap time. Courtesy of 3 visits to the penalty box. So a disastrous day for the defending Pro-Am champions.
Domino effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
There must have been a solid reason for them to come in and change, though. Either maybe they did have a puncture and they said, let's change all 4 while we're in anyway. Maybe they were running slightly more worn wets and they weren't grippy enough, so they went to full new wets. Maybe it was the other way around, but there must have been a solid thought process to go, well, we've got to come in and change tyres, but it's all triggered all these penalties, unfortunately, for them. It's a real shame after a good effort in yesterday's first race, but they'll be back, no doubt about it. A good driver pairing, Fack and Schwarzer, and a good team as well. So their first pit stop was excellent, only 0.1 of a second above the minimum pit stop time. Here's a great view into what it's like to be a driver of a GT3 car on board with eyes fixed forward, a cacophony of noise, and you then blink, because if you miss one apex in these conditions, you're off in the gravel trap, aren't you?
Yeah, one of those shots was of him accelerating out of the penalty box. I'm pleased that he's got his mouth covered up, because I don't want to lip read what he might have been saying. At this point, Nico Handke, Moritz Viskersen, Leo Pichler leading the way. But to remind you, we have a second pit stop coming, and this is what it looks like when you have to decelerate through the penalty box. We have another pit window that is going to be opening in less than 9 minutes. And then we are going to find out what the real order is when all the long and the short pit stops play out. At the moment, Nico Handke looks to have this under control, even despite, well, yeah, I can hear you go, yeah, maybe, looks to have a fair shot at it, but of course he's got the long pit stop. Leo Pickler has the short pit stop in 3rd place. So what is the gap between the front and the back? Oh yeah, I can see why you went, now.
25 last time they both crossed the line, so it's coming down. It was 28. If it's above 20, then Anka's still in a good place. Bolotov should still stay in the lead of the race, but if it gets to close to 20, it's going to be nip and tuck there, and of course it's down to who does the best pit stop, so it could be very close indeed. But 25.5 seconds is the gap at the moment. 1:39.3 for Handke, a 1:39.0 for the number 14 Pickler car. So he's catching, but he's not catching that quickly.
You see, I think he's got it under control.
Glad you're so confident.
Yeah, it's all not misplaced. Right, there's another penalty lap for Alex Mack. He's becoming good friends with that penalty box. He's visited it enough times. I don't know if that was his first, well, he's done one already, but that's his 2nd or 3rd. Whichever it is, he's currently last place, 11th place in this race. Right, this is the man making the headlines, Leo Pickler. What can he do? Right, Moritz Viskursen in 2nd place has just seen his 2nd place disappear, because up into that 2nd now, Leo Pickler. So the man on a mission, we're not watching DTM, we're watching GT Masters. The man on a mission is Leo Pickler. He's up into 2nd place, so the gap 25.5 last time around. What can he do about Nico Handke once the pit window has closed and all the pit stops have been done? So Moritz Viskursen seemingly not to have the pace or the grip to stick with the Porsche that's come sailing past. We've still got 31.75 minutes plus a lap of this race remaining. I think it's still raining. The windscreen wipers are still going. The camera lens is still wet. We've almost forgotten about the weather, haven't we? And here we go. There's a replay of that moment, and Pickler just has a lot more grip out of turn 5, back onto the tri-oval, able to take a much tighter line. Viskursen going up wide to the wall, leaving a big hole on the inside, and Pickler is through in the Razzoon More Than Racing Porsche. He's already opened up a gap. Right, it is 27 seconds back, so I would still say Nico Handke has this under control at the moment, but plenty still to come. We're 6 minutes away from the 2nd pit window opening.
Yeah, just keeping an eye on the 4th place BMW of Hanses as well. So he, at the moment, is 16 seconds behind Viskursen, but he's got a short pit stop to come. The Mercedes has got a long one to come. So Viskursen, he's going to fall out of that podium position. He should do anyway after the next round of pit stops. He's already dropped to 3rd on the road, but the Hanses car is within 20 seconds, should have a 20-second shorter pit stop, having done the long one already. So Hanses should be on in the number 10 BMW to a podium position once it all sorts itself out, and it'll be Eduardo Costain, the Filipino driver, ex-British F4 racer, that takes over the wheel for the final stint. So the Mercedes, I fear, he's going to wind up off the podium once all of this is done. Valente in 5th place has got to do a long pit stop. What about Wiebelhaus? Wiebelhaus is at the moment 37.47, 27 seconds behind the Mercedes. So it could be a good battle for 4th between those two cars once the pit stops happen, with the number 1 Mustang coming up the order a bit. But you're right about Anka, he's controlling things at the moment. His last lap was a 1:39.2. Viskursen, Pickler had the overtake, but a 1:39.5 still wasn't far off that. I think he just wanted to get past the Mercedes to not get held up, knowing he's got to get his head down to try and close the gap down to 20 seconds to that number 16 Audi.
And of course keep it on the track while doing that. And of course while you're trying to close that gap down in these conditions, it can be so easy to throw off into the gravel, as we have seen. Nico Handke, Dennis Bolotov, both looking for their first ever win in the ADAC GT Masters. There's less than 30 minutes plus 1 lap remaining of this race. Dare they dream? There's a long way to go yet. We saw a first ever win for Simon Birch and Leo Pickler yesterday, and they would love to make it a back-to-back win. That's quite a rare beast in this day and age in GT Masters, get back-to-back wins on the same weekend. We're going to find all the answers out in 29 minutes plus 1 lap as we look at the number 11 Leighton Fury in 8th place at the moment. making his debut in the GT Masters this weekend. Right, battle for position here. Emil Yerdrum, Juliana Holzem trying to come back. So Juliana Holzem and Emil Yerdrum, who's in the Pro-Am race, probably doesn't want to get into any kind of drama with Holzem. Would love to beat him out on the track. But remember that Emil Yerdrum, his main challenger is Alex Fack, who is currently having an intimate relationship with the penalty box, so not really in the fight for the Pro-Am race at the moment. As long as Yerdrum doesn't crash, doesn't throw it in the gravel, he's in a very strong position to win the Pro-Am race here. But he's got to get to the end. He gets into a battle with someone like Juliana Holzem and ends up having an accident. Alex Fack could still win the Pro-Am race.
Yeah, and looks at the inside of the Lamborghini, backs off out of the manoeuvre through the last corner. Had a good race yesterday, didn't he? Had a problem with the car, puncture in the qualifying session, so at the back end of the grid, that final row of the grid in that Lamborghini. But Emil Yerdrum and his teammate Jonas Karklis drove well. They came through to finish in 7th place in the end. So yeah, he's looking to get as high up the order as he can. The Norwegian driver behind the wheel of the car at the moment. Yerdrum is with a GT4 background over the last couple of years, so he's somebody else that's stepping up to GT3 for the first time. He's coming up to be lapped by the overall race leader, isn't he? Who is right behind him in the blue and lime green number 16 Audi. And there's the BMW missing the apex. It's happened so often, hasn't it, in this race? Into that turn, into turn 8.
It's bumpy and it lacks traction, and of course you've got the blue flags waving as well. That's distracting you. The battle has to go on hold because they must give way to the race leader coming through. So everything has to stop while Nico Hadenka comes through. The concentration breaks, you're moving off the racing lines, and look at the spray and the smoke and the dirt on that BMW out of turn 12 once again. Flat out, takes a lot of courage along this long straight to be going full tilt through the mist and on that slippery track. But Juliana Holzem looking to the outside, certainly has the grunt going into turn 1. Yerdrum, don't throw it all away because Holzem is not in the same battle that you are. But you can't tell a racing driver to back out of it. Emil Yerdrum still defending. What a great job with the Liquid Moly team against the Lamborghini. Brilliant stuff, and Juliana Holzem still fighting round the outside. Holzem, the more experienced of the two by some distance, out onto the tri-oval once again out of turn 5, and then ducking back into turn 6. This time Holzem under braking, the car snaking, and you can see how hard he is trying. And once again, Yerdrum just keeping his head, holding it all together. Great driving from Emil Yerdrum. I think it's the most mature driving I've seen from him. Really, really good stuff. Not allowing the pressure to get to him, letting Juliana Holzem do all the work, allow him to make all the mistakes.
Blimey, Holzem nearly did a whole lap of the tri-oval there, didn't he? He couldn't get the car stopped or turned in as he was meant to be turning off the tri-oval into the left-hander at turn 6. This was very skittish. Look at that. And
they did make contact.
He made contact with the front left corner. You see the sparks flying there of the Lamborghini. So Yerdrum got away with it. I hope there's not any sustained damage to the front corner of that Lamborghini. But for now, he's put a couple of car lengths between them in this big fight for 9th place. Nico Hadenka will be delighted that he got past all of that as the pit window's coming close to opening, because he lapped those two cars just before they got into that real battle. Had he got up to them maybe a lap later, he might have got stuck in that fight, and it might have held him up too much because he's trying to maintain a more than 20-second gap back to the 2nd place car of Leo Pickler as the pit window now opens. So the final 10 minutes.
Yeah, strategy time from the team. Who are they going to bring in? When are they going to bring him in? Well, the first one is the Schnitzelam Mercedes comes in. Moritz Viskursen going to be handing over, without being rude to Moritz, Janis Fitcher is he's certainly the more experienced, possibly the faster driver in these conditions, just because he is way more experienced. I should think Moritz Viskursen would probably be quite happy to go and have a little sit down. I think it's pretty sketchy out there. Juliana Holzem, he's not giving up, is he? Emil Yerdrum, currently the leader in the Pro-Am race. Don't throw it all away here, Emil. You're doing a good job. We've got a penalty lap one time for causing a collision for the number 56 car. So Juliana Holzem's going to have to visit the penalty box for that collision. We saw out on turn 5 onto the tri-oval. So that's going to drop him out of the fight with Emil Yerdrum.
Yeah, Holton will say, I didn't do it on purpose. I was just trying to turn the car in, trying to avoid going on. Back has caught them up, look. Despite all these runs through the penalty box, so he is now, this is the battle for the Pro-Am lead, isn't it? He's caught them up by some tune. They've held each other up so much. Holton's got back ahead, so 10th and 11th are fighting over the Pro-Am lead now. And back in the number 4 Porsche, right there as the leader comes in, and the leader is coming in to make the long pit stop, as is the Mercedes of Janis Fischer. Their long pit stop, the car in between them, the car running second, he'll now pick up first. Pickler, number 14, the Porsche, will have a short pit stop. So they've got to get this right, because there's not many seconds to play with here. They should still get out in the lead, but Bolotov's lead is going to diminish to something around about 5 or 6 seconds.
That'll teach me to discount the FAC Autotech car. You discount Alex Fack at your peril. He's come back at the rate of knots, and those two fighting certainly reverse them into him. Right, so here is that race leader. So Nico Antke is done for the weekend. Denis Bolotov, one more stint. The final 23 minutes plus 1 lap of this race. Into the car he goes. Right, this is the car that we're going to be keeping an eye on. At the moment, Leo Pickler is out on track. He'll need to come in, hand it back to Simon Birch. Janis Fischer at the wheel of the SR Motorsport by Schnitzelam Racing car. He is in 4th place at the moment. Right,
yeah.
Wet tyres staying on.
Costs you a lap, doesn't it, basically?
Yes.
A long pit stop, so it's been lapped.
Yes. So the wet tyres, it's confusing. The wet tyres get back on, so that is the number 16 car doing that mandatory tyre change. And now the wait as they get ready to head towards the pit exit. To remind you, Holzum has got to visit the penalty box, so he's into the pits at the moment. So I'm guessing if he hasn't done it already, Sandra will have to do it on his behalf. So we get going. So at the moment, Pickler is the race leader, but still has to come in. Julian Hanses in 2nd, still to come in. Alan Valente in 3rd. All of those cars have to come in, as is also the case with Wiebelhaus, Fetzer. Bolotov was currently the leading stopper out onto the track, registered in 6th place at the moment. And
what's not helped Janis Fischer, it was a slow pit stop as well. It was 6.5 seconds longer than it should have been. Should have been 100 seconds. It was 106.5. So the gap between that car and the Bolotov car will grow even more. They're both having the long pit stop. So Denis Bolotov now back on board. He's now the leading pit stopper. But what's his gap going to be once this car, the Leo Pickler Porsche, makes its final stop, which is going to be a shorter stop? It should be, I reckon, somewhere around about 5 seconds. But if it's all gone to plan, then the Bolotov car should have the advantage still. But it's going to be tight, and they've got to get as close to that minimum pit stop time as they can. They can't afford to give even a couple of seconds away, really.
So still fighting to get the car, keep the car on the track. Janis Fischer currently in that 8th place. I tell you what, Alex Fack is going to jump back into the overall battle here as well after all these pit stops are done and dusted. He has made monumental progress despite a drive-through penalty and 3 visits to the penalty box. It just goes to show you can never keep a good man down. There is Julian Hanses in 2nd place at the moment, our race leader. But where will he be once the pit window is done and dusted? He's got 5 minutes and 20 seconds to come in and hand the car back over to Simon Birch. Looks like he's comfortable and enjoying himself out there at the moment, but the team will be working on it. Is it going to be this time? He's picked up a bit of dirt going wide, but no, not into the pits this time. So he continues out into turn 11 again. So maybe next time. So we've still got 5-6 cars yet to come in for their pit stop, and you can see that was that wide moment. So Leo Pickler in the Razzoon More Than Racing Porsche,
pushing hard because he wants to close the gap as much as he can before he comes in. So it should be that the Bolotov Audi, the number 16 car, will emerge in the lead. But how much of a lead is it going to have over that number 14 Porsche, currently driven by Leo Pickler, once Pickler hands over to his teammate Simon Birch and the car comes out of the pits?
So the gap between 1st and 2nd, you can see there, 17.969, but both of them need to stop, and that's going to bring other cars into the equation as well. Alan Valente going late into the window as well. Finn Wiebauhaus making good progress in 4th place ahead of Dennis Fetzer. But at the moment, we're just going to wait for those last few cars to come in, and then we will see where it all shakes out. The rain looks like it's still coming down, so it's going to be, I think, wet weather tyres all the way to the flag now. Right, Dennis Fetzer is in, handing back to Jonathan Cicotto. So Fetzer into the pits as well. Here he is, the very pretty black and gold livery.
This has only got a short pit stop as well. It's already done the long one, so this ought to pick up a place or two. Likewise, the #1 Mustang, Finn Wiebauhaus, Salmon Vega, short pit stop to come. So that could end up 4th, whereas it was 6th before the second pit stop window opened.
Right, into the pits comes our race leader. So, Leo Pickler into the pits. Simon Birch will be standing by. This is going to be a lot of pressure in these wet conditions. They've done everything that they can to get into the lead of this race. At the moment, Denis Bulatov, where is the number 16 car? He's out of turn 5 towards turn 6 at the moment. So he's coming round. He's going to be on top of the pit lane before too long, keeping to the pit speed limit. In comes the Razzoon More Than Racing number 14 car. Leo Pickler is done for the day. No tyre changes required, but the car will be refueled. Refueling on the front of the Porsche, of course. Right, out of the car steps Leo Pickler, in gets Simon Birch. The clock continues to tick down. Up on turn 8 at the moment is Denis Bulatov.
By the way, the 16 Audi had a good pit stop. It was only half a second above its minimum pit stop time. So it was a long pit stop, but they got to within half a second of the minimum time. So they did a good job.
Brilliant stuff. The team coming into play here. Denis Bulatov, we're riding on board with him on the left-hand side of your picture. He's up into turn 11 at the moment. And now he's about to start onto the tri-oval. A pit stop infringement for car number 2, Jonathan Cicotto. We'll look at that in a minute. Out of turn 12 comes Denis Bulatov, still stationary. Simon Birch, now he's moving. He's got to stay within the speed limit. He's got to not get to the exit line before the clock strikes 0. There's your leader on the left-hand side of your screen. Into turn 1 he will come. Now Simon Birch is able to hit the accelerator. Is he going to do it? Remember, the tyres will be cold because he's been stationary in the pits for a while. Out in front he comes, but Bulatov has the momentum. Is he going to sail around Simon Birch? Bulatov with the more experience around the outside of the Porsche, then to the inside. This is for the lead. Side by side, the two cars bouncing off each other. Simon Birch holding on to the lead of the race. What an incredible drive from him. Into turn 6 they come. Now Denis Bulatov is going to try and put the pressure on, but surely had Razzoon More Than Racing pulled off a blinder along with Simon Birch and Leo Pickler. They take the lead of the race. What will be the net lead of the race, because at the moment Julian Hansis into the pits. Finn Wiebauhaus still to come in the next minute. This will be for the lead of the race.
Both did good pit stops because the Razzoon crew only 0.7 of a second above their minimum pit stop time. What you've got to say is that Pickler, before he handed the car over, put in some really, really good laps, because when that Audi came in, it had about a 25-second advantage, and it was giving away 20 seconds in the pit stop. So it should have come out at least 4 or 5 seconds ahead. The pit stops went to plan. So it must have been that Pickler, and we saw him pushing, didn't we? And we saw him kissing the gravel and kissing the grass in the infield. He must have got his head down and put in some really rapid laps to get that Porsche ahead. It should have been behind by a few seconds. Instead, he came out just ahead. So it's looking like it could be win number 2 of the weekend for them.
Simon Birch, we said he was good. This is now going to test him to the limit. Denis Bulatov, the more experienced of the two drivers, just on his back bumper. Coming out of the pits just ahead of them is Alexander Schwarzer, having made his stop at the front of the Pro-Am race. The pit window is now closed. The final runners are in there. Bulatov is not done yet. Simon Birch is feeling the full might of Denis Bulatov in the Sheriff Sport PHX Audi. Out onto the tri-oval once again. Bulatov with the tighter inside line. Into turn 6 he comes. Under braking and he loses it. Bulatov loses losing the back end. Now he's going to have to slam it back into gear. But surely that has thrown away what could have been a potential race win. I think he's still managed to hold on to that second place, but he regathers it all up, and that has given Simon Birch a massive amount of breathing room.
Bulatov sensed that there might be a first GT3 win for him here, and he had to try, didn't he? But he just slightly overcooked it. I think he clipped the curb on the inside, didn't he? That curb just entered the car, unsettled it. Let's have a look from this angle. He saw the gap, he went for it on the brakes, but he just, took the inside line a bit. Didn't hit the curb, but he was too tight to the inside. The back end switched around as he oversteered through the corner, and that was game over. You can see, I mean, there's the chance. The door is open wide, isn't it? It's so inviting, so he went for it, but he just loses it here on the bumps.
Oh, such a shame. Such an easy thing to do. But if he can bring it home in second place, or even get back to challenge the leader, because there was a lot of pace in that Audi, so 13.5 minutes remaining of this race. The sun is out at the moment, so who knows what that's going to do to the tyres. But there is the race leader. Simon Birch, Dennis Bulatov in second, Salman Vega up to third, Janis Fitcher in fourth, Eduardo Cosatang, who's taken back over from Julian Hanses, in fifth place. Johnny Cicotto, we did mention that he was under investigation for a pit stop infringement. No further action on that front, so all good for the number 2 car. Carrie Schreiner in seventh, ahead of Tim Zimmerman. And then the leader in the Pro-Am, after all the traumas, Alexander Schwarzer ahead of Sandra Holzem, and second in the Pro-Ams, Jonas Karklees.
All eyes should now be on the Mercedes, number 21 of Janis Fitcher, fourth place, flying after third. He's charging after the number 1 Mustang of Salman Vega. Last lap round, he closed the gap, so 1.4 seconds between them now. It's a battle for the final spot on the podium. He's very much on. 6.5 seconds between Birch and Bulatov. He really did gather it back up quickly after that spin, didn't he? And he lost 6.5 seconds. That's impressive. And he was the quicker of the two, that's for sure, wasn't he? Before that, he was all over the back of the Porsche. 12 minutes and 18 seconds plus a lap to go. You never know. And if there's a bit of traffic or there's one mistake from Simon Birch, all he can do is keep the pressure up now, try to close that gap, but we'll see what the lap times are like comparatively. But he seems to have got straight back into the rhythm. So here, the next one over the start-finish line is the race leader, Simon Birch. The Dane comes over the line now. His last lap time is a 1:41.2. Here comes Bulatov. That gap is coming down, 1:39.8. He's 1.4 seconds quicker on just one lap. The gap is just over 5 seconds now.
So it's certainly not all over for Dennis Bulatov and Nico Handke. Alexander Schwarzer very kindly just stepping aside to allow him through on his charge. We knew that car was quick. He needs to keep it all together. So this is not all over. He's got 11.5 minutes to reel in the leader. This is one of the Engstler Lamborghinis, Liquid Moly Engstler Lamborghinis, Jonas Karklees, again onto the gravel. I can't think of many cars that haven't had either a spin or a trip to the gravel during this race. He's gathered it up, and he is able to rejoin in 11th place. Just cleaning the tyres off there. And
about to go into turn 4. The battle for third place is almost nose to tail. Vega and Fitcher. The Mustang, number 1, versus the Mercedes, number 21. Just 0.6 of a second between them as they cross the line. So they're just making their way onto the tri-oval now. And the Mercedes of Janis Fitcher is getting ever closer to the back of that Mustang. I'll see out the commentary box window. They're just coming off the tri-oval now, turning left through turn 6. And the Mustang looks like it's a real handful. Here they are on screen. And he's going super wide through the turn in that Mustang. He just couldn't get it turned in, the former champion. So Fitcher is all over him like an angry wasp.
So the pressure is on for Salman Vega. Keep it on the track. You can see the back end sliding as he gets onto the power, controlling all that horsepower. But Janis Fitcher through into the last of the podium positions. Now will set about closing in on Dennis Bulatov. Simon Birch has responded to the pace of Dennis Bulatov briefly, but now the gap is closed up again, 4.489. We just saw just now Dennis Bulatov. We saw him under braking. You could see how hard he was pushing. So we look again at a replay of Janis Fitcher pouncing on Samuel Vega. Just all that power is great when it's dry. In the wet, controlling it is such a skill. And that was the view on board as the Mercedes-AMG came sailing through to take that 3rd position. And now he's already opened up a bit of a gap. Behind him is Eduardo Cossetang. He is a fair distance behind this battle, though. Here's our race leader in amongst the traffic. So, will the traffic do anything to slow down Simon Birch? Denis Bulatov closing in. It was 4.489 last time. If the race finished now, it would be a clean sweep for Leo Pichler and Simon Birch of 50 points. In terms of race points, doesn't take into account the quali points because they didn't score any in either of the quali sessions. Flashing the lights to the back marking car, telling Tim Zimmerman to step aside. That must be a bit strange. The experienced Tim Zimmerman being told to get out of the way for Simon Birch, who's leading 4.4 last time around. Let's see what this is in a few moments. He's out of turn 11 onto turn 12, onto the tri-oval. You can see that he's pushing hard. In the background, there is Denis Bulatov. Here he comes in the blue Audi. 4.641 last time around. So what's the gap now? 4.641, and it is 5.6.484. So either Bulatov's had a moment or Birch has really turned up the wick.
Bit of both, I think.
Yeah, I think it's both.
It's a good lap from Birch. It was a poor lap from Bulatov. He was back then into the high 140s. So I think you're right. He might have had a moment. Next one to keep an eye on is 5th. Cossetang, the BMW, in 5th place, number 10. It was 6.5 seconds clear of Jonathan Cecotto. But on the last lap, Jonathan was 4.2 seconds quicker than him. He's charging after him.
I don't think that Eduardo Cossetang is enjoying these conditions as much as he might there. The Sandra Holsen car in 10th place. Right, this might be the reason that that gap opened up. But we're having a look. Yes, he got a little bit airborne in the number 16 car. I don't think Denis Bulatov is lifting off for anything or anyone. This was the view on board. Getting a little bit of air across the grass as well. So that's a separate incident. Gets it back into gear. So clearly...
Turn 4, wasn't it, that?
Is it? Yeah, he's giving it everything that he can. Just pushing hard. But also, Simon Birch, you can see the back end sliding around the corner. The traction is not increasing in this race, is it? The cars are all very, very twitchy. Time starting to run out. 7 minutes and 20 seconds. So 6.484 last time across the start-finish line. Bulatov still going deep into the corners and maybe pushing a little bit too hard in that Audi.
Yeah, it's frustrating for him because he's the quicker, isn't he? But he's the less consistent as well. So whenever he gains time back, then he had the spin, then he had that mistake there, and he just loses all the time he gains back. So it's one step forward, one step back at the moment for Bulatov. But if he can keep it together for a few laps, he's got the pace to challenge, that is for sure. And again, he's quicker by 0.8 of a second on that lap. Got back down from 1st to 2nd to 5.6 seconds now. So a real battle going on there. Cossetang still in the BMW, hanging on to 5th, but gap's down to 5.8 seconds between Cossetang and Cecotto, and they are just making their way towards turn 10.
Here comes our race leader, just keeping it all calm, keeping it all together. A nice replay here. Is this a moment? Just a good angle, a nice slow-mo of the number 14 car. We're welcoming Razzoon More Than Racing to GT Masters this year. So far, they've won every race that they've taken part in. This could be a continuation of that. They're leading it. Simon Birch, along with Leo Pichler, in these wet conditions. These are conditions that test the drivers on a track that is bumpy and challenging, requires courage. The big test, if you can win here, you're doing well. If you can get a back-to-back win here, you are doing really well. Denis Bulatov wants to ruin the dreams, but he's still a little way back. It was 5.6 last time on the start-finish line. We've also got sector breaks that pop up on screen occasionally. We'll see what it is next time around, just heading in towards turn 10 at the moment, and then on to turn 11. The back marking Tim Zimmerman there. So 5.6 last time around on the start-finish line. You can see how hard Denis Bulatov is concentrating, 7.097. So the gap was, that was what it was last time across the sector line, 6.792. So it's kind of opening and closing. I think that's the summary. Not enough to do anything about the lead that Simon Birch has with 5 minutes remaining of this this race.
No, it's a not a great lap, that one from Bolotov, for 1 minute 40.5. So again, when he's on it, he's quicker, he's trying everything. I mean, 10 out of 10 for effort. He really wants to win this race. He's giving it everything. And do you know what? He might as well, because he's got a nice big gap back to third. So even if he has a few mistakes and puts a couple of wheels on the grass, as long as he gets it back on the track and doesn't throw away second place, he might as well try. But it's just frustrating because he can't quite get more than 1 or 2 laps together without there being something go wrong. So the speed is there, but he's a bit on the edge at the moment, and it's, that's why the gap is yo-yoing all the time. Kosatek's kind of back on a better pace now in the BMW, the number 10 FK Performance BMW, and he lost that 4 seconds on one lap. He clearly must have had an off somewhere. He was in the 144s. He's back in the 141s now, but he's still much slower than Jonathan Cecotto, who did a 139.8, 2 seconds quicker on the previous lap. So the gap from 5th to 6th is down to just about 3 seconds now, as the number 2 Mustang closes in on the number 10 BMW. They're both behind the car you're looking at now. Salman Vega running in 4th place. His last lap was slower than Janis Fischer, so having lost out to the Mercedes a few laps ago, he's falling away bit by bit. So it looks like 4th is where Vega is going to end up. Fischer looks like in the Mercedes he's going to get that last spot on the podium, because he's well clear of Vega, but he's miles behind the Bolotov Audi in 2nd place.
In 13 previous starts in GT Masters, the best that Denis Bolotov has earned has been a 3rd place. He's done that twice, once at Zandvoort and the other at Spa. Both of those were last year. Nico Handke has had a 5th place at Spa last year. This is also his 14th race, and he also got a 5th place yesterday. So both of them looking for their best ever finish in ADAC GT Masters. They would dearly love to go 1 place better, but at the moment, the gap is kind of averaging around 6 and 7 seconds between 1st and 2nd. Simon Birch looks to have this very much under control at the front in the number 14 car. Janis Fischer in that 3rd place. We're into 2 3/4 minutes of timed racing remaining. Once the clock strikes 0, the leader will continue on the lap that they are on, and then it will be 1 more lap after that, as we look at Jonas Karklees in the number 8 Liquimoli Team X Lamborghini, 2nd in the Pro-Ams, 11th in the overall race. The leader in the Pro-Ams, Alexander Schwarzer, despite all the traumas, is some 29 seconds back from the race leader, and in that Lamborghini. So we're seeing them there, just mastering the conditions. 2 minutes and 10 seconds remaining. Jonas Karklees, of course, who has been sharing with Emil Yerdrum at the other end of the field. So it would be a 2nd in the Pro-Ams, but it will continue to be the top step of the podium for Alex Fack and Alexander Schwarzer. Just mastering the conditions in the last 1 minute 3/4 after all the hard work. Could be so easy to throw it all away, pushing hard. In the background, here comes Eduardo Kosatek, who has now been caught by Jonathan Cecotto. So Kosatek had pegged it back a bit, but now Jonathan Cecotto in that 6th place. See how hard he is fighting. The car just snaking, under braking in the wet conditions. So Eduardo Kosatek currently in 5th place, but Jonathan Cecotto had been catching him. Kosatek just being very cautious into the corner. Cecotto gets a nose in front, a nose alongside. Kosatek tries to give him the squeeze, but Cecotto is going to come out onto the pit straight. I think he's going to duck to the inside. Yes, he does. It's going to be the drag race out of the final corner, out onto the pit straight, in towards turn 1. I think this could easily be an advantage Mustang here. It's going to be who's going to be bravest on the brakes into turn 1. This is for 5th place, and Cecotto just easing in front. Can he get it slowed down? Good stuff from Kosatek, trying to come back. The 2 cars bounce off each other side by side, and Kosatek manages to get back in front, but goes deep into turns 2 and 3. Once again, Jonathan Cecotto coming back around the outside, and Eduardo Kosatek, great driving from him, still holding on to that position. I thought he was dead in the water there, but he came back fighting, and all the coaching that Julian Hanses has been giving is paying off, because Jonathan Cecotto is still behind the BMW, or is he? Now to the inside. Once again, the fight for 5th place. Now Cecotto squeezes in front, but Kosseteng with the back end sliding. Cecotto falling back behind the BMW. Great stuff. The clock strikes 0. The leader's up into turn 5. A lap and a half this race remaining. Cecotto sliding around the corner. A bit of opposite lock. And I have to say, hats off to Eduardo Kosseteng. That is defense of the day in that BMW.
Cecotto driving it like it's stolen, isn't he? Absolutely lighting up the tyres, drifting out of the corners. That was brilliant, though. Pretty much a lap together for the pair of them, giving each other just enough room. Cecotto is coming back at him. He's been the quicker over the last 6 or 7 laps, but getting to a car and getting past a car, 2 very different things, and really using plenty of his experience there, the Filipino driver Eduardo Kosseteng, to keep the Venezuelan behind him. But there's going to be more of this because Cecotto is coming back at him, and the Mustang gets a really good run coming out of turn 12 and closes up and closes up and closes up. He won't have a go at turn 1, but he will get alongside. He tries the outside line here, just about gets the car turned in. Downhill now as they go through turns 1 and into turn 2, and it's this section, this middle part of the lap, where Cecotto went side by side with the BMW last time. He's about a length back now, but he will come at him again, and this is where the BMW looks like it struggles through the right at turn 4, through the left at turn 5, and the Mustang again closes the gap.
The gap between first and second was 9 seconds. It's still fairly large. We're on to the last lap of the race for Simon Birch, along with Leo Pickler, have done everything right. Here comes Denis Bulatov. He's taken 0.6 of a second out of the lead, but that's not going to be enough with this final lap remaining. We've got one on Kosseteng and Cecotto as well, but this is a historic race and a historic weekend for Razzoon More Than Racing, making their debut in ADAC GT Masters this year. Simon Birch, who this time last year was racing a GT4 car in ADAC GT4 Germany, along with Leo Pickler also coming up from the GT4 category. And now in the final lap of the race, it's looking like it could be an historic back-to-back win for these 2 drivers.
Still about to come out to start their final lap. The battle for 5th between Kosseteng and Cecotto absolutely nailed together as they come side by side out of turn 12 as they look out of the commentary box window. So Cecotto about to start the final lap of the race, might be about to fling himself down the inside at turn 1. They're neck and neck as they come past the commentary box. It's all going to kick off at turn 1 between the pair of them as the race leader comes up towards the completion of the race. Did he get through? Let's have a look. Tippy toe. Yes, he has. Cecotto's got through, I reckon, into 5th place, but the BMW is coming back at him.
Up onto the tri-oval for the very last time. The duo who won the race yesterday, Simon Birch and Leo Pickler for Razzoon More Than Racing, making back-to-back wins, a clean sheet in 2025 as they win the race 2 of the weekend, the second race of the season for the ADAC GT Masters. Denis Bulatov and Nico Handke gave it everything, but it's a best ever finish for both of them in second place. Third place looking like it's going to go to Janis Fischer and Moritz Viskersen out onto the final corner for the very last time, for the last of the podium positions. And out across the line comes the SR Motorsport by Schnitzeland Mercedes to cross the line and take the last of those podium positions. Then it will be Salman Ovega along with Finn Wiebelhaus, who will score 4th place. And then what a mighty drive from Jonathan Cecotto along with Denis Fetzer, finally getting past Eduardo Kosseteng, who put up such a defence, along with Julian Hanses in that BMW, and that is going to be for 5th and 6th place. Those 2 will come out of the final corner to cross the line ahead of 7th place, Carrie Schreiner, who, along with Alan Valente, bring that Audi home. Still waiting for that car to come across the line. There comes Cecotto and Kosseteng.
You know, Jonathan Cecotto got the lead at the start of the last lap into turn 1, but the BMW of Eduardo Kosseteng got back up the inside of him into turn 6, but he just outbraked himself, went wide, and Cecotto got him back these 2 and got proper ding-dong for the last lap of the race.
A little bit of a nudge there into that final lap. Some debris flying. All good, though. And Jonathan Cecotto just squeezing through. Just waiting for Alexander Schwarzer to come through and take the win in the Pro-Am category. He's now registered across the line So he and Alex Fack continue their winning ways despite a drive-through penalty and 3 penalty laps. That was me saying, oh, well, they're out of it. It's going to go the way of Jonas Karklees and Emil Jerdrum. Well, they'll say, well, hold my drink, look at this. And that's exactly what happened. So we're looking again at that fight between Jonathan Cikoto and Eduardo Cosseteng. It was quite a duel. And I have to say, good racing. They gave each other space and they made it happen. But into Parc Fermé now comes our race winner, and he is going to be absolutely jubilant. You thought they were happy first time around. Look to what's going to happen here. Simon Birch, you can see Nico Hanske just coming to congratulate Denis Bulatov on the left-hand side. But there you go, Leo Pickler and Simon Birch. Nico Hanske, Denis Bulatov on the left, and those 2 drivers, Simon Birch with the helmet on, Leo Pickler, having won 2 races out of 2 in the opening round of the ADAC GT Masters 2025 season. And Nico Hanske just congratulating Denis Bulatov. He gave it absolutely everything. He shakes his head, but he's got to be really proud of that. Really good job done. He held it all together. Good, clean, fair racing. A little bit of wild moments, but he kept it on the track. And there, the smoking number 21 car, steam and smoke pouring from it into Parc Fermé. And out of the car gets Janis Fitcher. Moritz Viskersen will be on standby, ready to receive his 3rd place trophy when we get onto the podium. And there is Simon Birch. We said it before, we said it again. When he signed up for GT Masters, we knew he and Leo Pickler were going to be championship challengers, and they lead with a clean sheet of paper. Nico Hanske, Denis Bulatov in second ahead of Moritz Viskersen, Janis Fitcher, Finn Wieberhaus, Salman Vega. Lively race for them into P4 ahead of Denis Fetzer. Jonathan Cikoto finally gets to the end of the race. Julian Hanses, Eduardo Cosseteng, Alan Valente and Gary Schreiner, and Leighton Fury and Tim Zimmerman. They round out the top 8. Ninth place, after a very lively race, Juliana and Sandra Holzem, Alex Fack and Alexander Schwarzer winning in the Pro-Ams, and Emil Jerdrum, Jonas Karklees. Well, they took the battle to Fack Autotech, but it wasn't going to happen. I think the rain had an awful lot to say about that as we look once again for the 2nd time this weekend at our race winners, Simon Birch and Leo Pickler. And there is the weapon of choice, the Razzoon More Than Racing Porsche 911 GT3, based on the 992 spec. So Moritz Viskersen and Janis Fitcher onto the podium. Nico Hanske and Denis Bulatov with their best ever finish in GT Masters, but perhaps thinking about what might have been. But it's 2 wins out of 2 for Leo Pickler and Simon Birch. And a representative from Razzoon More Than Racing onto the grid, onto the podium as well. And despite all the traumas, Alex Fack and Alexander Schwarzer onto the top step of the podium for the Pro-Ams. What do they say? You can't keep a good man down. The 2025 season of the ADAC GT Masters, the 19th season of the longest running GT3 Championship of the world is underway. Volker Crane from ADAC Berlin-Brandenburg presenting the winners' trophies. Heinz-Peter Freiberg, also from ADAC Berlin-Brandenburg, presenting trophies to our second place, and boy did they work hard for that, and did they try hard. You just know it's not going to be long before they take that first win. And Sascha Leopold presenting the third place trophies. And the team trophy going to Razun More Than Racing. And yet another Pro-Am trophy each for Alex Pack and Alexander Schwarzer. They had to work hard for that one. So everybody huddles up for the obligatory photos. And we start to look ahead and think about what might be to come. Because Simon Birch and Leo Pichler are turning out to be, there goes the torpedo, turning out to be formidable opponents. Of course, we did not see today Simon Koloprim or Finn Zulauf. They will be challengers as this season progresses. Dennis Bulatov, Nico Handke, so many drivers are in with a fight for this championship. Who, though, can stop Razun More Than Racing with Simon Birch and Leo Pichler? Our next round is in the Netherlands. We are on the North Sea coast in just 2 weeks' time. It will be an altogether different kind of event. It will be a sprint round. 2 60-minute races coming up from the 6th to the 8th of June. Join us in Zandvoort for round 2 of the ADAC GT Masters. Masters. We are go. The car's found out. And he's given the squeeze. Look at this, side by side. Pulling out right in front. And really good close racing. Wonderful stuff.